Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and welcome to episode 123 of Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. Today, I'm joined by the best fixer in Night City, Lord Cognito. How are you, sir?
Yeah, doing good, man. A lot going on. Little bit in my cyberpunk bag, a little bit. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, I'm feeling good, man. A lot of news to talk about. Maddie's back, and we got to get back into it, man. There's a lot of things to discuss. I need your opinion on some things too.
Oh, yeah. Yes. We're going to be talking about that Phil Spencer interview. Just wanted to address that right away because some folks were saying, oh man, shucks, you guys skipped out on that, and we should have delayed the episode. Some were saying, but my train of thought for it was going into the release of last week's episode. There's just nothing Bethesda, Xbox, Arkane can say right now to derail us. Like, there's nothing they can say. I don't care what they have to say, and we'll talk about it next week. And I'm glad we waited because what he had to say will be an entire conversation unto itself that really spurs on and talk about what we can expect from the game showcase. So it really does set us up for a deep, meaningful conversation in the aftermath of Redfall here this week. So hopefully folks understand where I'm coming from. But thank you all so much for tuning in. We appreciate you all. And as always, we're available on patreon.com/laststandmedia. And Mickey Rivers kind of setting the tone for us here in the early going, because over on Patreon, you can get our exclusive show, Defining Duke Ultimate, where we post every other week. And Mickey writes, just a quick shout out to the Dukes on the Craig Lay interview. His name was unknown to me, but hearing him talk his shit made me realize that there are lots of unknown legends in the space. If you haven't listened, make sure you sub and do so. So yeah, we did this interview, and that was the other thing a lot of our audience was asking, like, hey, are you going to do a DDU on this Phil Spencer interview? Which crossed our minds briefly, but again, we had this great interview in the can that we're like, no, we got to let Craig get his flowers, because we knew, like, compared to like a Josh Sawyer or Mark Dara, like, definitely like his name deserves to be out there more, but we know it's not going to pull a ton of people off the rip. And so I felt it was only fair, like, let's show people what Craig's all about. And so we wanted to let that interview stand strong on its own. So we made that executive order. But Cog, what is the DDU review for this interview with Craig?
Well, it was excellent because, again, like, I even learned so much from him. Like, he had so many gems, about the industry, about game dev, about Minecraft, things that I completely got wrong when he kind of quizzed us on something, and we were just like,
demographic.
Whoa. Yeah, highly recommend you guys take a listen to that. And then just overall, his gamer passion. I love this background. Like, he reminded me, he's got like a little, Star Wars. He's got King energy. Like, he's a gamer, and he's actually a pop culture guy. But yeah, that was a great interview. We learned a lot about Minecraft and about the industry. So highly recommend DDU.
Indeed. So our interview with Craig Lay, Principal Design Director for Mojang, is out right now for you to listen to. Defining Duke Ultimate episode 110 over at patreon.com/laststandmedia. Over there, you can also get early access to our show on Thursdays, as well as it hitting free feeds on things like Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, YouTube on Sunday. And today is the Duke's Day, and we have much to talk about. But first, let's connect with our mobile review people who have written in, because we appreciate those of you who are patient. We know last week we skipped over it because we just wanted to get to the Redfall juice right away. This time we can pace ourselves. There's not that urgency to get to that. There is urgency always, but not that extreme urgency. Like, I got to get something off my chest fast. Like, get out the way. None of that here. So we're going to go over and read some of the reviews that y'all have written for us. And again, the reason we ask you to do this is the numbers are speaking for themselves. I forgot to mention, but thank you all so much for tuning into last week's episode. It was one of our best in Defining Duke history, when it's not like a week such as E3 especially. One of our best performers. We had over 20,000 listens within the first day it went live. Of course, it was a major news topic, so we know that fed it. But to see the Dukes having a little bit of a breakout here these last 5 episodes or so has been really nice. So we just appreciate your support. And again, that push on mobile has been a big part of it. So thank you for submitting your reviews. And please, we urge you to continue to do so. Without you, the show does not grow. So just thank you for taking that time. We appreciate it.
No doubt.
So let's talk to Robot498, who writes, Maddie and Cog are my first choice for listening on my drives into the office. Want gaming news? It's here. Want critiques of your weird Oreo eating or bathroom habits? They got you. These guys do a faithful job of balancing both sides of any argument and can think beyond their own preference, which is something I really appreciate at a time where there is so much incentive for creators to pile on negativity. Matt is a bit of this is interesting. Matt is a bit of an old man gamer in a young man's body with preferences towards RPGs and single player games. He's a great reviewer with profuse skills to fairly judge a game. Cog is my Destiny 2 and Floof Warlock brethren. Such a great talent in the gaming community. Hearing him and his ILP crew speak brings me back to conversations with friends when we could argue about games without being enemies. Do yourself a favor and give them a listen. Yeah, that's a very strong line for our show there at the end for our ILP. Love. You could argue about friends without being enemies. That's wonderful.
Yeah, that's the essence. But what I love is his critique of us, because you could tell he truly listens. Like that is the way he broke us down. I was like, yeah, that's accurate. That's the Dukes right there for sure.
Absolutely. We got one more here from Sad Expo and a couple others. Maddie and Lord Cognito are both incredibly knowledgeable and passionate about all things Xbox. And it really shows in the quality of their podcast. They cover a wide range of topics related to Xbox, including news, rumors, game reviews, and industry insights. They also frequently invite guests onto the show, which adds even more depth and variety to their discussions. One of the things I appreciate most about this podcast is the level of professionalism and production value. The audio quality is top-notch, and the hosts always come prepared with well-researched and thought-provoking topics. They also have great chemistry and rapport with each other, which makes for an enjoyable and engaging listening experience. Another thing I love about this podcast is how approachable and inclusive it is. Even if you're not a diehard Xbox fan, Maddie and Cog do an excellent job of making their content accessible and entertaining for all listeners. Oh, I love that. Woo. They have a way of breaking down complex topics and making them easy to understand and engaging. I think that's a complex way of saying the Cogisms are highly effective. Overall, I would highly recommend this podcast to anyone who is interested in gaming news, especially if you're an Xbox fan. Even if you're not, I'm confident you'll find plenty of value and entertainment in Maddie and Lord Cognito's show. So give it a listen and join the thousands of others who are already hooked. The grammar is out there. The buzzwords are out there. I feel like I'm reading like marketing and PR for our show right now. This is great.
Superlatives.
This is great. Oh, wait, we got a negative review in here. I'm excited to read this one. But let's go. We got one more positive one. Then we got a negative review. We encourage the 5-star reviews. They help us the most. But hey, like we got a 3-star here, so we're not going to skip over. We're not going to pretend it's not there. We'll happily read it. So let's start off with this 5-star one though. Making the day a little easier, writes Spruce. Lend your ears to these two fellas for a matter of seconds and you'll feel the chemistry lull you into engagement in no time. Informative, honest, and no BS. These two rock. And they make the workday pass with ease with all things Xbox. May this review find you guys well. And as always, keep having a man. I hope I pull a PSA 10 out of this evolving cries pack kind of day. And yeah, I could go off on the quality of English Pokemon cards. Terrible, bro. They're coming out crooked, dude. I'm pulling cards out of packs that are whitened. It's awful, bro. It's awful. Pokemon's got to get their shit together. But apparently, so do we. Because we have a 3-star here review here from Puba.
Uh-oh.
All right.
What's your bad name? So I can Puba. Okay.
Right. It's fine. Better than most gaming podcasts, but honestly, it's a very low bar. It's modeled itself after cable sports talk shows, so you get a lot of rambling euphemisms, semi-shouted over the top of each other, conveying no new or meaningful information. Not to mention the podcast is way too long. I'm all for long-form discussion, but at a certain point, there just isn't enough to say to keep the conversation going for 3 or 4 hours. Again, not a bad podcast and better than 98% of gaming podcasts, but is it really a good podcast in light of the entire industry? Not really.
Oh, damn. But we 98% though. I'll take the 98.
Yeah, I'll take it. We're in the top echelon. We're in the top echelon.
I'll take that.
Yes, sir. Thank you for writing in. We appreciate all insight. Yeah, you can put your chest out, say what you guys say. Just be prepared to have it read on the show, which I'm sure he's not even listening, so whatever. But again, thank you for writing in, everyone. You are helping the show, 3 or 5-star. We appreciate you. And it looks like we're really earning those 5 stars when you got that in contrast, right? So with that, let's move on to some of the patrons here. I have a couple of corrections here. It appears I was off my game last week. So let's go ahead and roll into Adam Barnes, who writes it on patreon.com/laststandmedia. What's up, lads? This one's a correction for Maddie. I've heard you say on multiple occasions in masse. For example, the public were playing this game in masse. The term is en masse, pronounced en masse. Thanks for all the hard work, boys. I'm another PlayStation player who listens to your show for insight and entertainment. You both offer nothing but love, and the love goes back to you, Adam, because certainly I enjoy sounding less stupid. So thank you, Adam. Thank you.
I get corrected all the time, too.
No, I appreciate it, because it's a difference when you're writing it and you know how it's used in a sentence versus when you say it out loud. You're like, oh, that man lacks IQ points, huh?
I'll be butchering sayings all the time, so I know about that.
This one's more game related. It comes from Ilya I am so sorry. Staravarov. Sorry about that, Ilya. No, but anyway, this is a great write-in that they posted as a comment originally on the episode. And I said, please write this in. It's an important correction. We want it on the show. Try to commit it to memory. I will too. Fortunately, Ilya beat me to the punch. Quick correction of sorts. Maddie had brought up the void engine of previous games, and now Redfall being on Unreal Engine 4 could be the cause for, quote, some, end quote, of the game's problems. Their last game, Prey, actually used CryEngine, not Void, and Prey's Typhon Hunter DLC actually did switch over to using Unreal Engine 4. As always, thanks for a tough but fair and meaningful discussion. So thank you, Ilya. This is a great correction on the money here. I was under the assumption after Dishonored 2, this was the engine they were moving forth with, but I was incorrect. So thank you. This is a very important thing to point out, I believe. So thank you again. All right, Cog, as always, we like to help out our patrons where we can, because to me, I feel like when I see a cry for help in the middle of 80 write-ins this week, I'm like, we gotta pull our friend to shore here and help him out. So let's help out Just Spartan, who's about to fly for the first time. Hey, Mr. Maddie and the D Clan leader himself, Cog. Not gaming related, but I'm going on a vacation at the beginning of June. I've never flown before, and I'm feeling a bit nervous. Do you have any tips or tricks that could help? Take care and if you don't roll with me on my Redfall, you don't deserve me on my Starfield kind of day.
He's spitting king bars. No doubt. Yeah, Just smart, man. Flying, man. Depends on the length of the trip. But yeah, I mean, look, there's always, my first one is always going to be a little nervous because like the way the mind thinks is you're like, yo, the one that I go on, something going to go wrong. Mm-hmm. It's going to be something, you just got to calm yourself with that. But, for me, generally number one thing I do is some type of distraction, entertainment. Obviously, being a gamer, if you got that Switch, if you got that Steam Deck, easy work. Headphones. Headphones. And if you can't do either, headphones, music, iPad, iTouch, get in that mode of distraction. And it's the same thing with books. You know what I'm saying? Like, grab that last Ronin up. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like, grab that reading that that you've been putting off. You'll be surprised so much you can get done. And then, lo and behold, you can also download that Defining Duke. You know what I'm saying? Podcast. Audio listeners, you can do this. You can preload. I've done this before. I've preloaded episodes, listened to them on the way, and it's a great way to catch up. So look at it as like, I don't look at it as nerve. Yeah, it's opportunity. I like trips because I actually get so much done in between time, and it's so much fun that way. So distraction, bro. Look at it like that. You'll be fine. What's going to happen is you're going to be so engrossed. You're going to be like, oh, damn, the flight, we're about to descend. You're like, damn, I was just getting into what I was doing. Yeah. That's when you picked the right stuff.
Indeed. My suggestion would be, because you sound like you're nervous for flying, and I was the same way when the first time I flew was to E3 2016. So I was getting on what was from New York to California, about a 6.5 hour flight. Oh, yeah. And the first thing I read to calm myself down was I just compared the safety of vehicles, like ground vehicles, to airplanes. And it's actually insane how safe airplanes are. And so it'll be comforting to you because you probably don't think twice about getting into a car. And when you read how dangerous it is getting into a car compared to getting into a plane, you'll be very surprised, I think. And I'm not trying to put the fear of God in you when you get behind the wheel, but more so just to get the point across that you're comfortable with that, right? You trust yourself, it's going to be okay, or at least you think it's going to be. And it's doubly so for planes. So go ahead, research some statistics on that stuff. Convince yourself it's going to be okay. Follow Cog's words. Make sure you distract yourself, because for me, it's the takeoff. The takeoff and the landing, especially when you got an ass pilot. When you hit the ground, you feel the wheels rattling. I'm just like, bro, you suck at your job, man. I feel like we're about to fly off the runway. You never will, but still, this is something that you should prepare for. The takeoff feels like, whoa, I'm going back. Then you're good. Then you're just coasting in the air. Then you're just floating, right? But when you're going down, you're going to feel that one too. Just prepare for that. Maybe look up a video or something. We have the benefit of the internet. And I'll also throw out there as someone who has balance problems. It's funny, Cog and I were just talking about this. Every time I fly, I have to take Dramamine. I have to. Otherwise, I feel like I am on the plane forever. Now, I found out about this after the fact. So I traveled to E3 and I'm laying in bed. And I'm just like, bro, I'm still on the plane. so I'm just going to throw out there. I don't know how you'd find out before if you can, but look into that. If you have a history of like balance issues where maybe you get off a boat and you still got your sea legs for a long while, like a day or two, you might want to take a non-drowsy Dramamine before you fly, about half hour before you fly. It's a natural supplement, and it'll make sure you don't feel like total shit afterwards, and make sure you feel like you're on the ground. Now you can sleep it off. Like when I didn't know about all this, I just slept it off, and the next day I felt back to normal. But some bodies, and especially mine, I've learned nowadays takes a while to regulate balance issues. So just keep that in mind. But that would be my other thing, just Spartan. But best of luck. You're going to be okay. Don't worry about it. Enjoy your vacation. Think of the fun things and bring distractions on the plane like the juice.
Yes. And also bathroom before you get on. And if you can, go to the little shops in between, sneak in a little snack in your bag. Because sometimes they be cheap on these flights, bro.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're going to be like, damn, I need a little something. And that's all they give
Bring snacks with you. Yes,
snacks.
Oh my God. These airport stores, they tried to sell me a cold cut sandwich for $10. I was like, get the fuck out of here. No, I'm not doing that. So they'll charge you like $8 for a water. Just come prepared. Come strapped.
Yeah, come prepared.
No, don't do that. Come prepared.
You don't want to do that. You don't want to do too far.
No. Come with food.
Come with food. The big strike again.
All right. We got another tone setter here. I wanted to read these two back to back to then get into the news because I thought it was just interesting to see where the audience was following that episode, because one more thank you to our audience. A lot of emotion was shown by the Dukes. And I know on YouTube, emotion ages like shit, like absolute milk, like my Metacritic prediction for Redfall, low 80s, baby. So I'm just saying thank you all for supporting us. Like a lot of people found the episode cathartic, which was really funny to see. Yeah. A lot of people thought it was hilarious. A lot of people really thought it was insightful. I was just glad because I was going in. I said, I'm going to be me, as I always do. I'm going to be me. I know you had the same mindset, but there was that itch in the back of my head of, man, I'm going hard right now. Like, are we gonna be told we're out of pocket? Will we regret it? Will something come out and we're gonna age poorly? But we had to say our piece and just thank you to everyone who supported that episode big time.
Yes, a lot of love from the community that loved our takes on how we handle it.
Yeah, that was awesome. But we have some criticism again, which I think is great. But again, it's just to showcase the positions of the community and where we're at and kind of set the tone for the episode because it's going to be our main focal point. So we'll start with Mr. Scott, if you're nasty. Sir Dukes of Negativity. With some time to digest Redfall and Xbox acquisition news, do you feel like you're still as negative about the Xbox as a platform? I felt a lot of emotion last episode, and I get it. But I feel like some of it was hyperbolic. Love the show, gentlemen. Have a don't jump kind of day. Meanwhile, Jason Hunter writes in, hey, friends. Well, Redfall was so bad that I bought a PS5 this weekend. Yo. With nothing exclusive to play until Starfield and the PlayStation Collection ending soon, I thought I might as well pick up a PS5. I've always been the type to own all consoles, but I can't be the only one who is ready to make this jump. Also, I signed up for Sony's subscription and was greeted with basically every exclusive for the last few years for $15 per month. There's a clear difference between the two, and as a diehard Xbox fan, that makes me sad. I could be playing Redfall if it was better, but I'm playing PlayStation now. Thanks, y'all. Jason. So again, just to put that dichotomy out there, like one fan's like, y'all were a little dramatic. One saying like, I'm out. I'm switching teams. I'm putting on the new jersey, new flannel, right? So, Cog, to set the tone for the conversation as we get into the gaming news, we've had time to really digest more what has occurred. We'll talk about that Phil Spencer interview. But are you still feeling as sour on the brand as you were Wednesday when we sat down to record last week and talk about Redfall and the state of Xbox?
I mean, look, it's just it's a stain, and again, if you look at it in a vacuum, you look at it right then and there, of course, we're going to be hyperbolic because it was the last thing we expected from that title, that studio, and then more importantly, what we played, right? The vertical slice or whatever it was, that we played. So, it was that it was very surprising. That's what it was. But as far as like down on the brand, I've even said in that episode, if people listen, like I still stood on my square that I still anticipate them to have a great year. I still stood on it. It's just that these were the type of things that we can't allow anymore. And I think we have to admit, especially, the homie that you're saying you guys are a little hyperbolic, is that that situation really brought out it was like it broke the community in a sense. Like that was the breaking point. That was a part where people were like, yo, we can't take it anymore. Like it was one of those moments, you know what I'm saying? And they needed to hear it. I think honestly, situations like that do affect change. So I'm still standing on my square. They still had to get that work. Don't get me wrong. Like, I see this commentary now. People are like, yo, I love Redfall. It's great. I don't know what people talk about. Great for you. But 90% of the community don't feel that way. You know what I'm saying? And you can't minimize other people if the majority feels that way. You can't minimize just because you having fun. That's all I was saying. So, yeah, I'm still standing on it, kind of thing. And, but at the end of the day, overall, if they execute, the key is execution, right? Yeah. If they execute, I still feel strong. But I know Maddie was going in it. I'm curious if things have settled or it's like, nah, they got to show me. I'm not really feeling nothing. You know what I'm saying? Where you at?
Yeah, man. There was obviously a lot of anger and frustration last episode. And I think it stung doubly so because I think Bethesda made the same mistake twice that I genuinely thought they had learned from with 76. But no, nothing's really changed. Like it's not to defend a point or to stand on a square. It's really just, if anything, it's really set in now. It's reality. Like, okay, this is the brand moving forward. I think a lot of people are already getting to that point in the news cycle. Oh, I'm tired of negativity. It's not even that bad. It's a one-off. But as you put beautifully, it is that backbreaker moment, whether people are looking at Redfall as a one-off or they're agreed that, hey, we couldn't have this happen and it happened. I think we can all come in the middle and agree that it's time for Xbox to deliver. And this was the start of that with the prices going up and with the showcase heading in June. There was no doubt like this was the time to start firing and set the tone. And I think the reaction was even more extreme, not because it was unjust, but because the game wasn't just, it was like a misfire. Like it was just kind of it was a bad game. Like that's the thing. Redfall was I'm not going to try to beat up on it too much. We're not going to give it the death loop or the 343 treatment.
Right.
We'll resurrect it when we need to, but it was a legitimately bad video game. And that was the problem. It wasn't like I'd say maybe Days Gone was the last controversial kind of PlayStation game where folks thought it was misunderstood. Redfall is not a misunderstood masterpiece or something along those lines. It's just a bad video game. And Xbox fans had tolerated a lot up until that point. And the problem was we had all kind of collectively kept moving the goalposts like, okay, this was a step forward, that's a step forward, but next year, bro, next. And when the next year arrived, with starting with Redfall and it didn't deliver, that's why everyone snapped. And yeah, nothing's changed. It's just now pure disappointment. And we'll get into that Phil Spencer interview, but I'm glad he has some degree of understanding that none of this matters anymore. The things they announce, the things they show off, they're in a shit position because none of it matters now. And it's almost tough to get excited for them until we have it in our hands, because this felt like a betrayal of trust on top of all of that. And
good point.
And that was the biggest, I think, damaging thing long term. It's not that Redfall, again, was just a bad game. It was mismarketed, not only to the consumers, but to us who played the damn game early. So now it's like, oh, when I see Starfield, oh, when I see Hellblade, when I see Forza, is that when I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, make no mistake. But there's definitely that abusive relationship vibe of like, man, can I trust you? Can I trust you after that? Are you going to do it again? So that's where I stand. Of course, respectfully, I don't think it was hyperbolic. I think they needed the smoke, and it was the perfect time to give it to them because, we've gone 122 episodes at that point, or 121, sorry, at that point, without blowing up on them. We've expressed disappointment.
343 though.
You know what? You're right.
343
343 is a really, yes, 100%. Thank you for correcting me. Outside of that, though, I think the Dukes have always been reserved on when it's time to pop off on Xbox, where I think a lot of the industry tees off on them easily because it's true. They're an easy negative target for clicks. And I think they have done, in some instances, a much better job than given credit for. So I think when we tee you off, it should be taken seriously. And that's why I'm totally fine with my reaction. But again, we do appreciate the reception to it. But Cog, you had more to say.
Yeah, just one thing was that, and we didn't even mention, I don't remember us mentioning, I'm glad that you made that point about mismarketing because, on the box of the game said 60 frames per second. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? And
then a little sticker.
Now it's a sticker, right? So again, it goes to show you, and as we will get into the Phil Spencer interview and stuff, he's commenting about this, we were not over exaggerating how we felt that quote unquote marketing portrayal, so to speak, of how it was presented, which leads into your point about trust and now feeling like, oh, is this going to be as you say it is? That's why it was more devastating than just, it's just a low review kind of thing. Yeah. It was all of these factors.
Absolutely. So that's your tone setter and where we're feeling right now. We're going to get into some of the news and then we'll dive into that Phil Spencer interview on top of what the EU might be doing with the deal. Starfield ESRB rating. We got a lot of great Xbox news lined up this week. Definitely a up week in comparison. But let's start off with one of the most anticipated Game Pass games. Anytime this game posts a trailer or anything like that, millions and millions and millions of views. I think this is going to be a sneaky big one for Xbox. And they were wise to get day one Game Pass for it. Hollow Knight Silksong. There was an update from Matthew Griffin, who is Team Cherry's head of marketing and publishing. He writes on his Twitter account, "Hey gang, just a quick update about Silksong. We had planned to release it in the first half of 2023, but development is still continuing. We're excited by how the game is shaping up, and it's gotten quite big, so we want to take the time to make the game as good as we can. Expect more details from us once we get closer to release." So looking like maybe a second half 2023. Probably a showcase target for Xbox. You'd have to think, because I believe it was revealed at their showcase a couple of years ago. But this has been obviously delayed for a while now. This is the first time they have submitted some type of statement on it. I don't know if there's room for concern here or not, because it just sounds like they're taking their time with it and just refining what exists. But Cog, how are you feeling about Hollow Knight Silksong? Is this anything you're looking to dive into or not?
I actually played it like 4 or 5 E3s ago on the Nintendo Switch. Yeah, it was one of my first Nintendo coverages at E3. And I remember this is a beautiful looking game. The combat looks phenomenal. And at that time, I didn't realize Xbox was even a factor. It was just like a Nintendo game. So it's kind of funny to see oh, wow, I remember that. It still hasn't come out, kind of thing. But look, they say it's ready. Shout out to Team Cherry. People are highly anticipating that game. And it's a unique looking game. And I think it's going to do well. It sounds like the scope has gotten much larger. Yeah. I am concerned about feature creep, though. I will admit that. Even though I'm team delay. But remember, being that one of my colleagues is making a game, I get to learn about features and feature creep and stuff like that. So I am concerned, how ambitious are they making it? What are they doing, kind of thing. It's been a while, but again, team delay, do what you got to do. It looks like it is coming this year. And it would be a nice little, want to make that showcase extra spicy. You want to throw these highly anticipated games coming to Game Pass. Hey, these will be nice little mini announcements to add to the overall show that we hopefully are anticipating.
Yeah, I'm wondering just how big this game got, because I always think of the Todd Howard quote. It lives rent-free in my head whenever we're idea jamming. It's always, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. And it's just one of the best goddamn quotes to live by when it comes to making stuff, because it's so true. So I'm wondering how it shapes up, because, I think the first Hollow Knight was already a 30 to 40 hour game. So I'm just curious what this one ends up being. But I'm excited nonetheless, because people love that game. I got to play the first Hollow Knight. I'm still catching up on it. So I'm excited, though. And I definitely think this is a pretty easy showcase target. If they're willing to show something, I think this is a good spot with the Xbox.
I know a stage for it.
Yeah. I think the Xbox Game Showcase would make a lot of sense. Game Pass. Hey, here's the release date. Probably fill out that second half of the year. Wonder if people are going to get that energy of oh man, we've seen that before. Okay.
The
re-reveal showcase.
Yeah, the re-reveal, true. But again, it is a little more so to maybe the ID at Xbox section or something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like just or the Game Pass section.
We will see, but that's what's going on with Silksong. Aaron Greenberg, this isn't like official type of confirmation, but it seems like a hint. If you go to his official Twitter account, you'll see that he has changed his profile picture to fit the theme of the Xbox Showcase, which if you haven't seen it, it's a picture of the Xbox logo with this big green glow in the background. However, his, interestingly, has one customized that includes, it's fan art, by the way, but includes hints to Hellblade 2. And I don't think this would surprise anybody if this shows up at the 2023 showcase, but seems like a pretty good indication of something that he may be excited about, that may be on the way, especially when you connect it with the showcase art. Greeny likes to tease like that, so obviously not a take it to the bank type of thing, but I feel like it was already pretty safe to assume this would be here, and this seems like just icing on the cake.
Fantasy pick looking strong, brother. Fantasy pick looking strong. I'm mad. I'm mad at myself. I don't know how I let you get that. But hey, you did your thing. This is now the second hint, as we will get into the Phil Spencer interview later. I felt there was a little gem there. And just to update, Greeny has updated his profile again. And now
the Dukes are outdated. Hold on, hit me with it. What's up?
Outdated as of today. He is with Hideki Kojima. He's with Hideo. He's they got on the the Xbox kind of game studios sweaters and like hoodies, something going on. They got a highlight. I don't know what. I'm assuming that is of the game of Kojima's production. Like some character behind them. Look at this picture, bro.
Yeah. Look at this. Very interesting timing.
Why did I call him Hideki? I'm bugging right now. Yeah, Kojima's outside. You see the picture?
Yeah, I see it. Okay, so he's swapping around. Is he? Let's keep an eye on this, because if I see it change again, I'm gonna start to assume something's going on here.
So should we assume that we may have maybe a little teaser trailer of
It's so hard to say, because we already know Death Stranding 2 is a thing, right? And we are hearing rumors. We'll talk about it briefly. A showcase for PlayStation is coming up.
Yes.
Probably at the end of the month.
Yeah.
And so it's like, is he going to show off there and also at the Xbox Game Showcase? I guess that's possible.
He's a mercenary. He outside.
It's possible.
He made it very clear to PlayStation.
In my head, it's like once you see one, it probably crosses off the other for the year. But
he did say, Kojima has always said, like, he had to calm PlayStation Nation down. Like, yo, I know y'all saw me over there, but I'm still everywhere. Like, you know what I mean? Kind of thing. So I think Kojima is embracing the mercenary role, to be honest. And look, if Aaron's got this picture up, I'm going to put a guess that they ready to talk about it. Like, he wouldn't put this. This is head of marketing. He knows what he's doing. They are trying to get the morale back up. And if you have anything, like if you got that little cinematic teaser trailer, I know people want gameplay, but we know we're not there yet. But I think it's okay when it's the debut to say what the name of the game is. And hey, here's this little cinematic thing.
We're in agreement that I think there's enough in the can where we're going to have a lot of now announcements from first party. It should be that way with things like Avowed, Hellblade 2. I would say even Compulsion. Like, I feel like those should be in the can and ready to go. We'll actually talk about Compulsion next, but they need to pull the trigger on some wondrous announcements for this showcase. And this would be one of them. Like, here's the game from Hideo. Again, I always put it in the echelon of like a New Vegas 2. Like, if you're going to pull the trigger on far future shit, make it worth it. Like a Star Wars game, a Marvel game. Maybe not Marvel. Marvel people are kind of burnt out on, but like a big brand partnership, like something that just prepares people for the future that's unlike your other announcements. If it's just another first party, like, hey, we're rebooting Banjo, which I love Banjo, don't get me wrong, but like, we're rebooting Banjo, we'll see you in 2027. Like, fuck no, don't do that. But like, if it's something like, whoa, they're doing that, I can't wait for that. I think if they deliver the first party, they'll be at liberty to pull the trigger on something like a Kojima announcement, even if it's just a title card or something like that.
They can get away with that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's talk about Compulsion Games, developers of We Happy Few, developers of Contrast, now Xbox first party studio since 2018. they are hiring for a community manager. Now, this is particularly interesting because I looked into it, and their Twitter account has not posted since October of 2022. Wow. Now, community managers, I mean, the name of the job kind of gives it away. You may guess they manage communities. They interact on social media, for example. So this may indicate that they're possibly gearing up for some type of showing, as usually when you ramp up for this stuff, you're going to have a bulk of assets to post clips, images, trailers, that type of stuff to remind people that your game exists. So I'm wondering, Cog, do you think Compulsion Games has a chance of showing up? Obviously, this isn't our official prediction show, but I'm just curious if you think this means anything.
This is a weird one because I have some insight. The past community manager, Nalia Hodges, for Compulsion Games, we had on Iron World's podcast before. And, basically, I am surprised that as she has moved on, that it has taken this long for them to fill this position. This is very strange. And now you're telling me, October 2022 is when the last time, they've posted. So I'm a little, I don't want to say concerned. I'm just like, But I'm with you overall. Like, it's time for them to show. Like we've been waiting for them to at least give us an idea of what. I mean, we've heard the rumors. Jazz has kind of spilled the beans on what that is. But as far as what is it? Deep South. Female,
Deep South, dark fantasy,
female protagonist. I believe we saw like a little bit of artwork, if I'm mistaken. But
yeah, he did post something.
Yeah, so like. I'm loving that vibe. It is definitely, third person. We'll see production value wise, if it's, AA or AAA. You know what I'm saying? That my curiosity is production value wise. And then what you laughing at? What
sounds like it's got to be AAA after all this time. I hope so. It can be AAA in other ways. Fidelity wise, if it's not, I'm personally not going to lose my shit, but I understand why people want that stuff. I'm not saying they shouldn't do it, but you're thinking it's going to be a little AA Hi-Fi Rush kind of energy?
Look, man, this is where I've lost a little confidence. I will be honest, Maddie. Like, I'm starting to feel like, not that AAA doesn't matter to them, but it's just like, we're still getting out a lot of these smaller games from this studio. Yeah, like, hey, this was what we was working on before we got to you. And now this seems different, but I hate to say this with them because I'm really excited for Compulsion, but I am tempering my expectation on the scope. I need to be proven wrong. I want this to be AAA. I really do, but I need to see it before I commit. And right now I'm going to stay in my Hi-Fi Rushy kind of bag until I hear otherwise. I want to see more AAA stuff, but I don't know yet with Compulsion. So, and then the other thing is, like I said, why you ain't got a community manager yet? like she's been going a while. Nalia's been going a while. So like, what's going, I'm a little confused by that. Not saying it's doom and gloom, not saying, oh my God. I'm just saying it is interesting to me that it hasn't been filled. And then, we should assume the development cycle, they should be getting close to showing something. So curious.
There's a lot you can get done in a month. I have faith.
That's true.
I have faith.
That's true. Respect.
We need to have faith in something. What I don't have faith in is Aspyr Media delivering on the Knights of the Old Republic 2 DLC. So let's talk about that. Pen and Pant writes in, what up, Dukes? Not really Xbox news, but Aspyr has removed mentions of DLC on the eShop for Knights of the Old Republic 2. Why do we keep seeing companies constantly not delivering on their commitments? As always, I love the work y'all put in. Best $5 I've ever spent for 2+ years now. Thank you, Pen and Pan. We appreciate you. So for those of you, a little bit of background story on this one. Aspyr Media are a bunch of liars right now. So they had posted that they were going to do the Knights of the Old Republic Restored Content mod, which is, by the way, this is a big mod on PC that fixes a ton of bugs, adds a ton of new content, new voice lines. It also adds the HK manufacturing plant, like revamps the ending. You get to talk to your crew more. There's a couple extra quests. Like, it's important. Like, I cannot recommend the game without it. It's just super buggy and incomplete without it. So they're making it official by putting it out as DLC. Their originally promised release date, which has yet to receive any if I could speak, any sort of official statement, was Q3 2022. We are now Q2 2023. So we're way fucking off. They still haven't said shit about it. And now it's been removed from the eShop, bro. And I'm like, what is going on? Like they haven't issued a statement. A statement. Fans are boycotting. Fans are harassing them almost every single tweet. Go look up the Twitter account. Every tweet Aspyr post. Where's that KOTOR 2 DLC though? What's going on with that? Literally, they are getting hounded over it. I made a video covering it saying like, yo, they lied. They lied. They still are lying. They still have yet to say a word. And now it's quietly getting removed. And get this, I'm on their official website and they haven't updated the release date yet. They still say this DLC will be released Q3 2022. That's insane. Now, it's supposed to be free. So in fairness, there is a degree of like, check ourselves because we're going to get it for free when it delivers. But they have missed the mark woefully, have not answered any responses. And my guess is when they lost the Knights of the Republic remake project, I'm guessing this may have came with it. Like, that's my only assumption because they happened right at the same time. Like, that got ripped out from under them, and then this shit just went away. So I don't know what happened, but that's the update on it, that it's seems like it's officially being canceled.
Yeah, it's just like a slow, quiet death. This is weird, though. Like, the way it's just being handled and mishandled is just very strange. And looking at that Twitter account, people are upset. Like, yo, what's up with that KOTOR too? Like, and then they removed the mention on the eShop. What's going on? Like, yeah,
bro,
very strange.
So that's what's going on with Aspyr and Knights of the Republic 2. Let's talk about Boosteroid real quick. We got some updates on the Activision Blizzard acquisition that we'll discuss briefly towards our news section. But Boosteroid, another cloud platform provider, has made a statement on the blocking of the deal by the CMA, saying that there's no evidence of Activision games joining the cloud anytime soon and that the CMA is slowing innovation down with their decision. So Boosteroid making their disappointment known, just like NVIDIA did. So it seems like all the people who have made some type of partnership with Xbox are going to gradually roll out their statements of disapproval for this. But just a little update on that. Anything you want to add in?
Nah, not much. Just par for the course. Obviously, they want the deal to go through. Yep. This would be beneficial to them. And I expect statements like this as this thing rages on.
This one's a heartbreaker, man. This one stings. Yeah, you delivered it to me right before the show, and I don't know if my thoughts are really prepared for this one because I really wasn't expecting it to be this late. But according to Video Games Chronicle, they reported via I believe it was an earnings call, that Dragon Age Dreadwolf won't be released before April 2024. They say on Tuesday, the company shared details of the announced games it has lined up for release during the current fiscal year 2024, which ends March 31st, 2024. This includes Super Mega Baseball 4 Q1 fiscal year 24, Immortals or F1 23 Q1 fiscal year 24, Immortals of Avium Q2 fiscal year 24, Madden 24, Madden 24, one of the very worst of all time, according to Guy. Madden 24 Q2 fiscal year 24, EA Sports Football Club Q2 fiscal year 24, and then NHL 24 Q3 fiscal year 24. Last we had heard about Dreadwolf, we had learned that this was a game that had reached alpha in October. So this is getting punted probably till mid to end of 2024. And I gotta be honest, man, I'm surprised. Like, I thought springtime would make sense, but this feels like it's a ways away. It does indicate that they truly did restart this project. And as they take more time, it's just emphasizing more and more and more, like, this has to be old school God tier BioWare. If it is nothing less, we are going to have a shit show on our hands, probably like Redfall. Like, I think it will be Redfall-esque if this game ends up being really bad for after all this time. And I hope they deliver, man, because they got so much exciting stuff on their plate. But Cog, I know you're a big BioWare guy too. You love your Mass Effect, but Dragon Age Dreadwolf looks like it's not coming out till at least after April of 2024. So how are you feeling about the news?
Release schedule's interesting. We gotta wait there, long wait. But I'm actually spinning this positive. I think that, to me, what gives me hope is our man is on the scene.
Mark Dara making his presence felt.
So what if Dara was like, "Oh no, this what y'all was going to release?" What if Dara's making that, that consulting? What if he's doing his Joe Staten over there? And he's like, yo, we can't Craig face this. Like, now we got to do this, we got to do that. And that's giving me a little confidence because remember, there was leaks before, right? And then we saw some of the leaks of the gameplay, and they were going for a little bit of the God of War action-y kind of a vibe, which I know ain't sit well with the Ready plays.
This is, I guess, that proves that review is accurate, that I am an old man gamer, because I saw it. What are we doing? Why is this action-based?
Yeah, so I mean, maybe, the homie saw it, and he's just like, look, we gotta make this feel like Dragon's Age. We gotta put these key things in it to really bring this home. So that's what I'm holding out for. I'm holding out that his influence, he was brought off for a reason.
Yeah.
And his influence to me, even if they're saying it was alpha from beginning to end and the alpha was playable, that they got to make some substantial changes in that. So I'm holding out hope that it's going in the right direction.
Yeah, we'll see, man. But I just hope it's good. This wait is going to kill me. But
I know.
I will continue to wait.
Mm-hmm.
Ghostwire Tokyo has reached 4 million players. How are we feeling about that? You've been grinding this game. You're one of the 4 million. We're seeing Tango just continuing to roll. Pretty high player count, man. I think this is right there next to Deathloop, which reviewed extremely well. So it obviously does not indicate sales where it was originally PS5 exclusive and on PC, but still pretty high number there.
Yeah, a very, very highly underrated game. Me and Colin talked about it a lot. He loved it when he played on PlayStation. And when I obviously, my experience with it, I've been great. I just got to get right back to it again. But that, man, it's so much fun. It's unique. It's unique. All I ask is performance patches, sir, on series consoles, please. I would like to see those added, and it looks like they're going to support. I think more content is coming. We did hear about the, what is it? What's that software? Is Lenovo? What's the PC anti-cheat or whatever Lenovo. It's called?
Yep.
Yeah. So to me, that indicates that they have more content planned and they try to get their money, you know what I'm saying, kind of thing. So I don't think we've heard the last of Ghostwire, and I like this franchise. I think that it's a nice foundation for future sequels and stuff to come.
Absolutely. So I'm very excited to see what Tango's up to next. They seem to be bouncing all over now based off these 2 last games. So whatever they're cooking on, hopefully Evil Within 3 is in those plans, because I think now is a good time to strike with that survival horror stuff. But I don't need to reiterate old points I've made. They know what to do.
They know.
We got to talk about PlayStation a little bit here, because I thought this was noteworthy. I feel like less and less we hear about studios getting closed down, but PixelOpus, responsible for Concrete Genie, is closing its doors on June 2nd. And apparently, I saw some tweets. There were some recent hires that were brought on board, and now they're leaving, obviously, because the job will no longer be available. But I was surprised to see this in one way, and I feel bad because I remember when Concrete Genie came out, the conversation on it kind of got kneecapped since PlayStation decided to announce what I believe were like controller features for the PS5 that day, and the DualSense in general got shown off, which absolutely absorbed the whole conversation that could have been taken on by Concrete Genie. And I just wonder, could it have taken on a little bit more of a life? Could it have garnered more of a fan base if some of that social media heat picked up? But it kind of got swept under the rug, and it's not like it reviewed poorly. So it's a game that I personally have yet to get around to, but it always looked interesting. It looked different. And I liked the ethos of that studio and what they were making. So it was sad to see, and best wishes to everyone whose jobs are affected by this, as hopefully they land on their feet. But it looks like a lot of talent was lost with this one. And I know you talked about this on your recent ILP, so I'm curious if you have anything else you want to add.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about it. And it was just one of those things where it's just like, again, I know everyone's anti-consolidation, but this is the reality of the business. The reality is, even if you have these charming, sometimes, cool, weird, niche, creative type games, that if they don't hit certain sales targets in this type of market, you're not prioritized, and you can be out of here. And, what I thought was very interesting, which you said on ILP, is Sean Layden's comments. Yeah. Sean Layden actually responded to it, and he was just like, hey, it's a deep cut. He loved working with this team. So to me, I look at it as that regime that he was a part of. And we got to be honest about Jim Ryan's philosophy about blockbusters and where they're kind of, going forward. So I think this is in stark contrast to that. And so for as much as people, let's just say this, and I hate to do whataboutism, but could you imagine right now if Xbox Game Studio shut down a studio?
Oh God.
What the talk would be right now at this climate, right? So again, as much as people don't like the Pentiments, not that they don't like it, but they don't want to hear about the Pentiments. They don't want to hear about the grounded, right? These studios are allowed that creativity. That's what's part of being acquired. Said, okay, we're going to give you our blockbusters, but we had this in mind. That's what they're afforded. You can say what you want about Game Pass, but what you can't say is that indie AA creativity has been stifled. You can't say that. They have been allowed to flourish. So that's the thing you got to watch out for. So, I was surprised, to see it. And, hopefully those guys land on their feet. It's a very creative team. So, we'll see what goes on.
Absolutely. Very well said. Mm-hmm. Before we get into the PlayStation Showcase a bit, Jez Corden had a bit of an interesting comment over on Twitter that I just had to pick up. He says he's hearing that a reboot of Dead Rising is on the horizon. And I think this is a wonderful time with Capcom just on a roll. Dead Rising 1, 2, and I even enjoyed 3. 3 having a lot of Xbox heritage, of course, being a launch game for the Xbox One. And I thought it was a good launch game. I know, there are a lot of people who were kind of poo-pooing it, but I love the Xbox One's lineup. I will forever say that, no cap. That was a good launch lineup, man.
Talk to him.
And so the idea that Dead Rising may be on the horizon. Did I say Dead Horizon or Dead Rising?
You said Dead Rising.
Dead Rising may be on the horizon has me excited. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I've had a week, so I'm getting a little bit of brain fry early on here. Apologies, but yeah, man, I'm pumped for more of that because the timer mechanic at first in high school when I played this, I hated that. I was like, man, I just want to do what I want, but it really is a special kind of unique approach to the game where you got to figure your way out. It is a lot of time frame and the creative weapons. I'm wondering how crazy they get with it because people thought with Dead Rising 4 they got too crazy, which is a game I skipped out on, so no comment. But you, sir, do you have any experience with Dead Rising? Or are you excited for a potential reboot according to Jez?
Yeah, just like you. Thought it was a fantastic launch game. I thought it was just. I always look at launch games that sometimes they're not perfection, but they're representative of what could be for that generation. And I just remember being amazed by the sheer amount of sprites and zombies on screen and the destructiveness. It was a showcase. Again, the Xbox One, I'm with you. I will stand on there. They had the superior launch lineup. It wasn't close to me. And I was like, even though they're getting all this flack about, TV or DLS.
I'm looking at the front.
Yeah,
but when purchase at that point.
Easy. When I saw the game showcase, because they immediately pivoted to the game. It's like, all right, guys, I know you're upset, but we got a game show. And I remember, and I saw Rise of the Robe and Mary was coming off. They was storming the thing. I said, oh my God, that's better looking than anything I've seen on both platforms. That game. Then I saw this game, and I was like, look at all the sprites on the screen. Look how
Killer Instinct.
Killer Instinct. They had a lineup, man. So I was just like, I would love to see what Dead Rising has up to. And shout out to Capcom. They're having record breaking sale. I believe that's last quarter. They broke every single metric prior based on what they just did recently. So they are thriving right now. Yeah. Capcom's on fire.
I just hope they carry this energy into Mega Man. That's all I'm asking for, Capcom. Beyond the remasters and the collections, which y'all gave Mega Man Battle Network the rub it deserves. Thank you for that, Capcom. But now, take that nice pool of money. Let's do a reboot of the X series. Let's really get things popping here. Let's evolve what Mega Man gameplay is. We could do so much with it, Capcom. You just got to hear me out, brother. There was a canceled first-person shooter that was a lot like Doom. You can look it up. It was just called X. And I recommend people check it out because I think it's what it came out before Doom, by the way, which would have been insane when you think about how popular Doom's gameplay is with people, that a Mega Man game could have actually pioneered that. But it looked amazing and it got canceled. Again, it's called X. It was a first-person shooting Mega Man game that was kind of hybrid between Doom and I was thinking a bit like Metroid Prime, but it is so cool. And I think about that game constantly. I'm like, Capcom's firing away. Could they do something like this now? Oh, man, I'd lose it. Because I think some people are a little bit over the classic Mega Man 2D stuff. And that's fair, right? There was a time period for that. But they could evolve it so easily. We've seen it in 3D with Legends. I just hope they like give it a try because they're doing so well with everything else. Like we're hearing about Dragon's Dogma 2, man. Dragon's Dogma 2, but no Mega Man. And I love Dragon's Dogma. Think about it. Like that, it's Now Dead Rising, but no Mega Man. Like this is the Blue Bomber. Like this is your company's. At least I thought it was. Maybe I'm foolish, but I'd say this is your company's mascot. It's Resident Evil and Mega Man, as far as I'm concerned. Like that's Capcom. So it's mind blowing to me. And I know the universe is sick and twisted because I know sure as shit we're going to see Dino Crisis before I see anything happen with Mega Man. I know because it's the weird, random survival horror game. Oh, dinosaurs, bro. Get the hell out of here. Give me my Blue Bomber.
Look, I will say Dino Crisis.
I'm on my heel turn still.
Listen, I ain't mad at that. You got to go for the games that you selfishly want. I respect that. Like me, I'm the Omnimusha. I'm like one of the few Omnimusha guys. So I was like, yo, could you bring that back with the little samurai horror, you know what I'm saying, kind of vibe. So that's me. But listen, the Blue Bomber, shout out to my co-host from The Last Word. Like you and him you guys are the biggest Mega Man fans I know. Like you guys, and Bontis is huge Mega Man. Yeah, like, so look, I would love to see it. I'm just curious if the collection is their way to kind of placate the base. To kind of calm down. They don't want to work on the mainline X joint. So I'm curious about their thought process.
Yeah, there's no doubt that these are kind of holdovers and they're testing the waters on everything everyone's interested in. And no doubt there is still a ton in the back catalog to do. Legends, Star Force. I mean, the list is shrinking. But again, once I saw them do the Zero and ZX collection, I was like, they're going to do all the Mega Man game collections before anything, which is at least another 5 years of that. So they'll take the free paycheck and we'll see where they go from there. But I just hope they do give some of that love to a truly new, inventive Mega Man title.
Yes, that'd be dope.
This is a big one, especially for PlayStation. Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake is reportedly going to be at the PlayStation Showcase, according to Special Nick of Xbox Era. And Jez Corden states that he's heard there is PlayStation exclusivity attached to it. Jeff Grubb is claiming that May 25th is the week of said showcase. Meanwhile, Andy Robinson of Video Game Chronicles is saying the late May/early June window is when it's all going to go down, reiterating the claims that Konami will be present. RK128 writes in, hello, Mr. Duke and Jedi Cog. With the rumor of Konami signing deals for Castlevania, Metal Gear, and Silent Hill games with PlayStation, how could Microsoft counter that? Any franchises y'all have in mind? I feel inspired to not buck up after General King preached the good word kind of day. I saw that clip. I saw the short he posted. That was very funny.
Hold the line. Yeah, King is in his bag right now. He definitely went viral with that one.
He was having a good time, man. He was doing his best.
Sure. He was doing his thing. He's doing what he do.
So, Cobb, Metal Gear Solid 3, beloved game, a remake. Konami back in action and exclusivity tied to it after we've seen Silent Hill, for example. Man, not only does Xbox do with this, but this is going to be an enormous announcement. No doubt about it. If it happens at the PlayStation Showcase, like definitely the one a lot of folks are going to be talking about. And it sets up a great talking point, again, leading into our main subject, which is the pressure of this showcase, because what no one's really talking about is Xbox is going to have to strike second while they're already on their heels, and PlayStation, who barely pulls up with a showcase going maybe a week or so ahead of them.
Good point.
This is going to be a tough uphill battle, no doubt. So I'm wondering for you, man, like, what's the feeling about another, sounds like gangbusters exclusive to them? They're immediately, like, Konami entered games and immediately PlayStation locked that shit up, and wisely so. And I'm just trying to gauge what you're feeling going into this PlayStation Showcase. Again, last one we got was end of 2021. I think it was after our first Last Stand event is when we got it. I remember Chris came over here and we watched it together because he had to record Sacred Symbols here. But I mean, they barely come around. So what is your anticipation for this? What do you think about Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake? What do you think about the uphill climb for Xbox that may be coming to fruition?
Yeah, listen, they coming. Sony's got a lot of stuff. We've had Tom Henderson on ILP. He's broke the PlayStation. What is it? The Pro, the handheld.
Forgot about that. Yeah,
they've got hardware coming, new tech, and they're being aggressive with that mid-generation refresh, right? So now my concerns on the hardware side is, you're kind of losing some battles recently. Then they're about to level up, right? So we do hear rumors that Xbox, is in development of their, potential. I don't know if it's a mid-generation or new console, but regardless of what, PlayStation is going to strike first, right? So they've got the momentum, they've got that. Now you're talking these exclusives, right? So Konami, the history, Metal Gear, come on, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's going to speak for itself. And you still got to survive the Spider-Man, bro. And there's been talk about that, about how Insomniac is like, we're looking to make our best game ever. So yeah, like, bro, here's the, what's so crazy about all this? If you objectively look at it, like, PlayStation really hasn't released much this year yet, right? So
Jim Ryan better send Phil a nice Christmas card. Like, thank you for just absorbing all the oxygen in the room in the first half of the year. Thank you. We appreciate it.
This is where the self-inflicted wounds hurt more, because during this time, you're supposed to be gaining ground. You're supposed to be getting the mind share back. Now you got to deal with this, and their global presence and brand, we cannot ignore how strong that is. So listen, to the question, what does Microsoft have to do to counter that? They've got to have a hell of a show. They have to. Like, it's I'm not going to get hyperbolic, but it's got to be good. It can't be what we talked about, which is the next 12 months, right? And it can't be, it's just Starfield and maybe 2 other games that we knew about, and after that, it's the same old. Like, you got to have them announcements. So I'm in positive news. It's good that I see Greedy put up the Kojima joint to me. Like, that's something we need to know about, that no one knows what it is he's doing, right? So if you have something, like, you've got to kind of bring the flair and the theatrics of stuff we don't know about, in conjunction with stuff we're waiting for, like Compulsion. And we'll get into it. So they've got to hit it from all these angles. And I think the only way you counter that type of stuff, because this is going to be heavy-hitter stuff, you got to utilize Game Pass in the biggest way. Or, like, to me, Outriders should be like the tip of the iceberg thinking. You've got to be like, if you can, Street Fighter 6, what's up, Game Pass? If you can, Tekken, like, anything big blockbuster, it's time to throw that Game Pass money on top of that, so you make it seem that those games are exclusive to you. You see what I'm saying? That's how you take the thunder back. That's what they got to do. I think they came, again, just the fumbling, bro, it's right there. Like, look, I ain't no executive. I'm telling, bro, I got people hyped just talk about this. So if I'm thinking about it, I hope you're thinking about it. Yeah. And please, just do it. Just execute, man. It can be done.
But does all of this really matter if you're not interested in out-consoling Sony? Is the real question. I heard that, and I'm not about console wars, but I'm going to leapfrog a little bit to the front of the line here. I heard that, and I was like, is that a bit of an evasive maneuver where if this shit sucks, you're like, well, we ain't really battling y'all, so you can't mention that PlayStation showcase. I know they can't control the proximity of it, but make no mistake, people are going to be sizing these two up, and Xbox did not convince me of their own self-awareness in this last week, where I do worry that they're not thinking about who's standing across from them in the ring.
The eyes off the ball. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I worry about that. In the terms of a counterpunch, I think you put it beautifully, where there's nothing I can add to it. Game Pass is your way of shortcutting to these deals in a quick succession without locking up third-party exclusivity. That just seems to be something that I don't know if Xbox is really going to do. We've been asking for a while. Are they going to start just cuffing people up and just getting people to be part of that platform exclusively? But this is, again, that year where it's like, okay, the feedback's been there. Start locking people up, especially with seeing how PlayStation's been so aggressive. The ability to respond to that, is it going to be shown this showcase? But I think, I don't want to sound hopeless here, but I do think if PlayStation managed to deliver new tech, Spider-Man 2, and Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake, doesn't matter what else they do. It's a fucking amazing showcase.
Yeah,
like, they're kind of set up to win. Not just against each other, but I'm just saying there's just set up for a winning showcase, right?
Yes.
So, with that in mind, it's like Xbox is just going to really have to have some wow moments. Wow moments. Like things that you just can't believe. And that's a tough ask because we asked for that for years. And I think the only wow moment we got, which was unfortunately leaked multiple times, was Hideo Kojima and maybe Persona finally being confirmed. And after that, Team Ninja, the Japan partnership is strengthening. Like that was a kind of maybe not the wow moment you always think of, but that was for Xbox fans. They're actually addressing a weakness here. But this time the weakness is perhaps the biggest it's ever been. So best of luck to them. It's going to be tough.
Yo, Maddie's out of pocket right now. No, hey, listen.
Look, man, everyone else, they were like, well, what are you all feeling? It's like, my confidence is kind of low in them right now, man. I can't help it. It might be that way until the showcase because they gotta put up, man. They lied. They made Cog and I look like fools in our coverage. My business is everything. My word is even more than everything.
I feel that.
I don't appreciate being fucked with. Continue.
I respect that. No, real talk. I respect that. And you represent a good portion of the community that, that's what the Redfall effect does, right? It affects that confidence to deliver. And look, it's on them. They have put added pressure on themselves. And we spoke about this at nauseum. So but
you know what, man? Like that puts them in a position too, which is they actually have the ability to make me walk out of this showcase really happy because people know me. I'm not like a Grinch when it comes to gaming, man. It's not my energy. Like I'm usually really uppity. So for me, like the possibility I'm walking to a showcase like arms folded type energy. Yeah. Let's see what you got.
What you got?
I mean, I might have some pretty weak defense, Xbox. Who knows? So I'm a pretty easy obstacle to overcome, I would imagine. But, I stand the chance of walking out pleased, which quite frankly, when we go back to the last two showcases, I remember people really complained about our reactions on Defining Duke to 2021's, I think it was the showcase. Might have been 2020's. I don't remember, but I remember when Carrick and I sat down, we were like, it was okay. And everyone was trying to act like it was the best Xbox showcase. And then last year, people are so hungry for more. They're like, it was the best Xbox showcase last year. I was like, no, it wasn't. This can be the best one because they actually can deliver on first party promises. So we'll see if it actually is. But no doubt they need their best possible showcase this time around.
Absolutely.
All right, we got a couple more things to skip over, and then we shall talk about what we're playing. So let's talk with Tom Henderson here. He writes on his Twitter account, it seems like Assassin's Creed Mirage has been internally delayed from August to October. Nexus AC's VR offering has also been delayed a couple of months, end quote. So Mirage sounding like this return to form for Assassin's Creed has been pushed back even more as Ubisoft continues to struggle a little bit here. But very curious about this one. Definitely want to see it in action. There's been a number of leaks for it, but I just want to see it for myself because a tighter, more old school Assassin's Creed sounds great to me. So any excitement for this one?
Yep, that's the one I care about. I don't care about none of the rest of them. I'm curious, yes, the VR just to see it, but the Mirage, that's the AC that I want to know about. That classic, go through the, you know what I mean? Like that's what I'm from. Yeah. Run through the crowd, you be the assassin amongst the people. I miss that so much.
Yeah, so especially with new tech, I'm really excited to see how they capture it. Tom Henderson also says the current plan for Call of Duty is to reveal it in early August with the date internally set for August 1st. He expects the reveal will happen within a Warzone 2.0 event and it will have Zombies mode day one, which is a pretty big deal because coming off of MW2 and whatnot, there wasn't Zombies day one. So obviously we want to keep a close eye on Call of Duty and all its little happenings since it may be part of the Xbox family if Xbox can pull off a miraculous battle in court. We'll see. But any thoughts on Call of Duty and its potential reveal?
I don't care. Just care about the deal.
Oh, whoa. Little Maddie energy there.
Bro, I've been very consistent. I could care less, but if you're going to give me free 99, then I'm interested. That's where I'm at with y'all.
I love it. All right. What do we got next here? Mortal Kombat 12. Oh, boy. Might be revealed soon if a tease from Ed Boon is to be trusted. My man only teases when things are coming around. So I think we can have some faith in our man, Ed Boon. But Mortal Kombat 12, we already knew it was coming because WB Discovery had stated it was on the way this year. Looks like it was going to be a holiday title. This is another one, man. I could see this showing up at the PlayStation Showcase. And that's the fighting game platform, no doubt about it. So it's another boom punch to the face.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Xbox got to get a hold of one of these three. Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and Tekken. You can't let PlayStation run around the
problem to me, bro, is they're not remembering the fourth pillar. They're forgetting about Killer Instinct.
Oh, yeah.
I know Phil's already said, we want to bring that back. But Phil clearly wants a lot of things lately, man. And so, that's not enough now. That desire is not enough now. So that's what I think they should do. Like, let them have it. Bring back KI.
You can't.
I'm not talking about exclusivity. I'm saying, if they want the marketing rights, fine. But, you got, for the fighting games to come over, you got to have your own. To some extent, like even PlayStation, at least they had, I don't know, All-Star Battle Royale. They had Tekken for a while. Like they at least had stuff that defined the platform. But with Xbox, it's like, have we had a fighting game? I mean,
I think they had Tekken. I could have sworn Tekken was debuted on the Xbox stage. The one with Akuma. That one was on the Xbox stage, but I don't know how the marketing worked, but it debuted there. I remember I was at E3. I was blown away. I was like, yo, this is a huge deal. Tekken been, what you call it? My man, why am I forgetting my man right now?
Harada?
Harada.
Oh.
Why did I blank on Harada?
Nah,
like he was on that stage. I was like, yo, that's a big deal. So yeah, they've got to get, they got to get the marketing on something. Like they can't let, the problem they have though is that Sony and Evo. Sony's bought Evo.
That's what I'm saying, man. So that's like, if I'm WB, I'm looking at that like, why the hell would we partner with Xbox on Mortal Kombat?
Drop a bag. You got all this money, right? Yeah. Drop a bag on one of them three. That's
possibly, but
we'll see.
Fair point. Mm-hmm. So Mortal Kombat 12, expect to hear more about that soon. Sonic Frontiers is the best-selling 3D Sonic game ever in the history of the series, at 3.5 million copies sold, which is an extremely high amount. But when you think of Sonic, I'm not going to lie, I thought it'd be more. I'm not going to front. With the popularity of the franchise, I did think the highest selling game in such a popular, widely discussed series would be more than 3.5, which again is a fantastic number every dev dreams of, but still surprising to me. But otherwise, congrats to them. I think it's well-deserved. I do still stand by Sonic Frontiers is a great game. And if you're looking to get back into Sonic and you're not like Cog, creepy Cog at the park. You can't play Sonic anymore.
Nah, Sonic is the whole.
You can play Sonic? Okay, cool.
Nah, Sonic is, I've got it. Listen, I was there at the birth. Like, I was there. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my child. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I can do this.
You're the cool uncle who hangs out with him.
Yeah, like we know each other. I'm cool. But Sonic is fair. That's Sega love right there.
Absolutely. So congrats to Sega on what I think is a very much well-deserved success in Sonic Frontiers.
Especially during Ragnarok time.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I was like, by the way, went toe-to-toe with Ragnarok and came out as the best-selling entry in its franchise. Pretty cool claim, man. So just shows that Sonic can go toe-to-toe with the greatest. All right. Halo Infinite has an update in May. It's adding Super Fiesta mode, frames per second counter on consoles. Ranked King of the Hill now has a faster initial spawn time. There's some tuning to the sandbox where in Ranked Arena, the Disruptor, Spike / Dynamo grenades, and Shroud Screen will have one charge upon pickup, some quality of life updates to the Forge, and then some bug fixes. So Halo continues to truck along. Is this one that you're thinking we might see at the showcase? Do you think we're going to hear from it, or is it time to stay quiet?
Look, man, I voiced my opinion. Shout out to the Duke, Mr. McCaffrey. I made an appearance there not that long ago, and Halo came up, and I was just like, it's time to give a roadmap or an update. It's time they need
you
a
and
shot
I are
in
on the
arm
same
back.
page this episode, man. Scary.
Yeah, we fire all you. We do. Like, bro, it's time because you've got to show. Not only do you have to make up for what happened, you've got to show the quote unquote recommitment to Halo that you claimed after all the shakeup, right? So now you got to, and I got to give them credit. This update is substantial from a technical level. They've done a lot of stuff, even I believe a lot of some of the PC, the desyncing stuff. They're doing a lot of core fixing. And again, this kind of reminds me, for my Destiny fans, there was a period of Destiny 2 where people were not happy with the core game, and it was called the Go Fast update. And they listened to all the feedback. And I'm hearing they're doing a ton. Like, this is just a small, minute section that we have here. Mm-hmm. Like, we got to get like Ainsley on or something. Like he and obviously Raygun back and do like another Halo revisit to see how it's playing right now, because this is substantial. Like, I speak to the Infinite community to kind of get their gauge, and they're like, yo, this is what we're talking about. Let's go. So they're super pumped on a core base level. Now you got to get the me and Maddie on where you go, okay, and on top of the game has changed. Here's the season. Here's the certain affinity, mode, boom, battle, whatever it is, right? You've got to now compound this with new content to get people like, yo, it's back on some level. So I'm pulling for them. It's slow and sure, but I think, what's my name? Pierre Heinz. Slowly but surely getting into his Master Chief Collection, refixing it bag.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that it's time to get a good roadmap for it, because I think the fixes are great. I haven't really hopped back in a while, to tell you the truth. And I would love to see them start to establish, like, okay, after the layoffs, after the change in leadership, after everything, to the point where we had to, as you said, recommit and say, like, we're going to handle the future of the franchise. What is that? Even a snippet for just 2023. I'm like, what is coming up? I don't want it to turn into the Xbox update showcase where it's like a little update on this game, this update here, this update there. But I do think Halo is the exception, not the norm in that situation. I do think Halo Infinite is the one that you need to have, if you can, if they're ready, because obviously we're team go dark if they're not. But if they're ready, let D43 have a good moment. I think they need it. And like Hog had mentioned last episode, if I always forget their name, man. Certain Affinity. If they're ready to rock and roll with their new mode that's apparently coming to Halo Infinite, I think it's time to maybe shift into that. I just think Halo Infinite needs a win, because while we're seeing the numbers not really suggest like Infinite's going to pop off, I think optically, which Xbox needs a lot of optics wins, if you can get Halo looking right in the mixture of everything else, it is really good for your brand image. So if they can synchronize that, I think it would be beneficial to make the exception for Halo Infinite and say, like, okay, you got a good update? All right, come on, bring it in. I think they should definitely do that.
Absolutely. Be part of a nice comeback story in conjunction with a positive showcase.
Absolutely. Game Freak, developers of the Pokemon franchise, are developing a brand new action-adventure IP codenamed Project Bloom, which is scheduled for a 2026 release and is to be published by Private Division. To be emphasized here, this series does not have any ties to Pokemon. Unkempt Talk writes in, hello, Dukes, with the news that Game Freak is publishing an action-adventure game with Private Division as the publisher. What is your confidence level in this project from the developer primarily known for Pokemon and all the hits and misses that come along with that? Also, since this is a Private Division game, can we expect to see this on Xbox? For what it's worth, the concept art was pretty, but tells us very little about the game. Thanks for the excellent show. You guys are the best. Thank you, Unkempt Talk. We hope you are keeping well. This one was interesting because I didn't know this would actually be possible for them with all of the time they spent on Pokemon. And a lot of people don't know this. It's become very evident, though, in the later Pokemon releases. But Game Freak is a very small team, just over about 100 people from when I last looked. And you can especially see that in Scarlet and Violet, where we'll just say the tech art for that game was awful. And it was just a performance level, terrible video game. But it was one of the best made Pokemon games, which shows that there was some creative flares finally in the company that had, I think, gotten a bit stagnant, transitioning into the Switch with Sword and Shield being a game that I stand by. Awful video game. But look, man, this is surprising and this is welcome. And I think it'll benefit Pokemon fans, even if they don't care about it, because it goes back to that we Xbox fans, we've seen a lot of combat, right? We've seen a lot in this war for games. But what we have seen is what happens when teams get a chance to go do something creative to rejuvenate themselves. We've seen a lot, not all of it positive, but that is one positive takeaway for sure. And I see it here. I think it's great. And I do think it has a chance to come to Xbox, although, a Japanese developer, kind of off the leash, PlayStation sniffing around. I don't know how confident I am, but it can come to Xbox. It's about, do they want to? Do they want to come into our house or not? But Cog, what about you? Any thoughts on Game Freak's new IP?
Look, man, salute to them for being free of the shackles of the Tegra chip. They're free. They're free from doing wizardry on that.
They're not going to know what to do with themselves.
They're going to have all these resources and power and not know what to do. I'm excited to see what they do. Private division, I think the relationship with Xbox should be solid. I don't anticipate, I understand your point, the Japanese thing and, maybe, if Sony, is kind of snooping in the cut with a little marketing deal, you know what I'm saying, kind of thing. It's possible. But I would be surprised if it skipped the platform based on private division's, past relationship. And we got to see how this is going to go. But I'm excited to see what they do untethered from Switch.
Yes, me too.
That's where I'm at.
I thought this was like an interesting stat, so I just wanted to throw it out there. Despite taking 3 added months to arrive after all the hype and controversy when the game originally came out in February, Hogwarts Legacy, aka Hog Leg, for Xbox One and PS4, recently ranked as the #1 best-selling game in the UK. So very impressive that the last-gen version is doing extremely well for this game, despite the numbers and the records it broke and how popular it was, how well it did. It still ended up in the UK, the week it came out, the #1 best-selling game, ahead of Jedi Survivor.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Impressive. But again, just people, if you were against Hogwarts Legacy, prepare yourselves for that sequel. It's coming.
It's man, it's Prince itself. And it just goes you to show the power of Harry Potter in the region, especially there. You know what I mean? And
that's a good point.
It shows you, as far as the people who have not got a new console yet, that base, still picked it up. That was a smart move. That was a really intelligent move. Salute to them. This is super impressive.
Yeah. So that's what's going on with that. And then last little bit here, and we'll talk about what games are playing. Performance mode is coming to A Plague Tale Requiem on Series X, not S, and PlayStation 5. So all this time later, we got them 60 frames, but originally for Series X owners, 45. We're getting the nice 45 FPS. So, sir, how do you feel about this? I know you sent this my way. You saw that there was a console missing. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, I do. It is interesting to pay attention to this. Obviously, 60 frames. Usually the performance modes tend to come in double with the series console, but not this case. It seems to be exclusive to the X, and it is something to fire up. I did want to mention, shout out to Tom Moran.
If you're are you going to talk about the Series S enhancements?
Yeah, so we'll leave it on because we got that.
Yeah,
correct.
That. You can go ahead and do whatever you got to do, but I was
that was it. That was it. You caught me. Great.
Okay.
So my whole thing is now, we're gonna talk about that other part later. But now look, we need the 60 frames. These are the type of things we want to continue to see from developers to maximize the hardware and get Plague Tale to where it needs to be.
100%. Let's take a break from the news. Let's talk about what games are playing. Got a couple of write-ins that tie into the games that we're playing. So how do you want to tackle this? Do you want to get into the one game that you're playing that's separate from both of ours? Let's do it.
Go for it. So for me, look, it's been a real interesting week. A friend of mine, not to get too personal, was having a surgery. So it was one of those deals where they're like, yo, you got to have someone there present because you're going to go under and you can't, my best friend can't drive home. So I had to drive up to Connecticut. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, all right, what game can I play? Because real talk, I wanted to play Jedi Survivor. but I'm like, damn, I can't bring it on my laptop because I'll bring my laptop up. I can't bring it on my laptop because my progress is tied to Series X. So all right. So I'm like, can't do that. And then EA Play ain't got that cross thing going on. Correct me if I'm wrong, LSM fan, but not that I know of. They're completely separate kind of things. So I'm like, there goes that. So I'm like, what can I play? So then I'm like, you know what? CD Projekt Red, come to the front of the congregation. I thought about it because I'm like, wait a minute, I'm going to bring my laptop. I got my Steam Deck. You know what I'm saying? So what I did is I was playing Cyberpunk. And this is what the reason why I brought this up is this is what I really want for the future of gaming. So I've been playing Cyberpunk again on Series console. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to drive up to my friend's crib, got my laptop. Then I go to his crib, boom, we're chilling. Yo, remember, we got to get up early. Got to take you to the surgery. But I'm up on the laptop, continuing my save, because CD Projekt Red has cloud saves.
Yes, sir.
So I'm continuing my cloud save now on my 3070 laptop. Oh my God, it's so glorious. I'm doing some I'm killing cyber or psychosis criminals, running around the city, doing my little missions, so I'm having so much fun. So I'm like, all right, cool. But now, day of the surgery. So I'm like, yo, tomorrow morning, we got to get up, got to drive you. So now I bring the Steam Deck with me. So now I got the Steam Deck because I'm like, yo, how long they going to have? Oh, it's going to be a couple hours. Whatever,
no problem. Sure.
We'll contact you, Cog. Don't worry about it. Your friends in good hands. All right, cool. I'm in the waiting room. I'm like, oh, I got time to kill. Bust out the Steam Deck. Continue to save from my 3070 to the Steam Deck, continuing on. I had such a ball. And I'm like, I need gaming to be like this.
Yeah.
I really need. This is the future.
I'll save, bro.
Regardless of platform, cross save. So look, I ain't got my ROG Ally yet, but I want to give CD Projekt their flower and all 3 substantial updates, graphic. The gameplay is phenomenal. If y'all haven't played, like, it's time to get back on Cyberpunk, especially, if you want to get ready for Phantom Liberty that's going to come, you know what I'm saying? Get that going. And then obviously Edge Runners, which, bro, I ain't gonna front. Batty, I'm with you. Like, this game is good. Like, yes, I'm having fun. This game is good. This game is really good. So, Cyberpunk, y'all. If y'all have been fronting on it, and then for the guys with the nice graphic cards, bro, that ray tracing update.
I've seen videos. Yeah.
Yo, it's hitting different. So go fire that up. So that was the only one I've been playing that's been a little different. So.
Okay.
And there's this other game that we'll get into.
There is this other game that we've both been playing. And don't really say it like that when it's both like it's a new game coming out or something like that. This is an old one.
Yeah.
Dishonored Definitive Edition. Now, I want to start off with you because this is your first time. And I just am really keen to get in a post Redfall world where you were like, this is going to be the COG game. I'm wondering if you've had a change of heart. I'm wondering if you've seen the light, understood your transgressions, have apologized for your sins, and I've seen the light here. You've understood that this is the superior Arkane experience, Mr. Deathloop. So with that, let's hear your first impressions of Dishonored, sir.
So I want to shout out, besides you, I want to shout out my good friend, Eric Jackson. He's a huge supporter. I know him. He's been podcasting for a while. Good dude. He used to do Brad. He used to do Game Loot Radio. He used to do so much, man. This guy's super knowledgeable. And he be in the DMs. He'll listen to Duke. He'll hit me up. Be like, yo, you had a good episode or whatever. So, I was getting some flack. They were like, "God, you ain't played Dishonored." And I'm like, bro, there's a lot of games out here. It's like, yo, I'm surprised. He was like, yo, I'm surprised at you. Because he was like, this for you. So I'm like, well, all right. And then obviously Maddie put the pressure on last week. He's like, yo, after that Redfall, like, you need to play with the real. Yes, okay, so now I'm coming in with a little chip. Let me see what all this is about. Right, so I'm coming in with a little
like a dragon energy,
like a dragon chip. I am coming in a little. All right, y'all talk this up. Let's see. Fire the bad boy up. Shout out to the series consoles, FPS Boost though. Salute, FPS Boost. Fire this thing up. So, let me see what's going on. I don't know what do you call this style of world? Is this Victorian? What is this? What would you consider this time period? It's a very unique. I like it. It's
like kind of steampunk in some ways.
Steampunk
in some way. It's got its own because like it uses whale oil as technology as like a fuel source. So it's like
whale oil. Then they're talking lords and Lord Protected, and I'm learning about Corvo, and I'm going down, and I'm like, oh, this is some real. There's a cool going on here. So I'm like, all right, okay, they embodied it. Okay. And then I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, the first thing I noticed off the bat, press B, jump into a stealth kind of mode. Then what really captivated me off top was combat, because I've never really seen the pistol with the sword action. And I'm like, oh, and then we block it with the sword I'm like, okay. So I'm getting into the flow of the combat. I'm like, okay, cool. But, and I'm still thinking, at that point, I'm like, oh, I'm good. This is fine. Like, I see it. I get it. Cool. Game continues on. We getting into some supernatural element thing. And I'm like, teleporting powers, and I'm blinking here, that I'm using things. And then, you know what? The thing that really, really shined. I'm just go back to the beginning. Just escaping the prison. And I'm seeing the enemy AI react intelligently.
It got me so... I got to cut you off because I was streaming to my buddy and he knew my Redfall experience. And I'm streaming him this game and I'm just crawling around. My brain was trained for the Redfall AI because I'm just crawling around in the shadows like, he ain't going to see me. This dude spots me on the corner of his eyes like, yo. I was like, oh my God, he actually spotted me. And it was genuine, not like trying to roast Arkane. I was like, yo, he saw me. Like, he actually saw me. That's great stealth AI. Continue.
Bro, and I'm like, Arkane, this is y'all. This is y'all. Like this, like, wow. Then what I love is the dialogue of just listening to the NPCs in the world. Yeah, Corvo, man, we got to get, like, it's so immersive. It's so, then just like, one thing I love, besides the stealth kill, you got to, shut up.
You can choke him out.
then they got the choke out. But what I like is to grab the body and toss the body. Like, that's my joy. Like, tossing the bodies up and the AI with the, if you get them out of sight, sometimes with the patrol, then I'm like, oh, we got Plague Tale energy with rats? Like, what is going on? This game got everything. I'm like, yo. Yeah. I'm like, yo, how did I miss this game? Like, this is straight COG ninja stealth, but in this steampunk Victorian kind of whatever is going on. And I'm like, nah, this is beyond fire. Like, this is ridiculous. Oh, I'm loving this. I was like, oh yeah, this is it. Like,
that's saying something. You came in with like a dragon energy. So to overcome all of that.
Yeah, I came in hating because I was like, let me see y'all capping, y'all blowing up some old game. But I need no, bro, I take it back. You Egypt, bro, this is fire. This is it's so well done. It's so well voice acted. There's just so much superlatives I could just throw at this game. Like, just did about 2 or 3 missions. I'm like, damn, why you gotta put me onto this now? I gotta do Jedi. I gotta play something. Like, it's just so. And I'm like, this game is getting played. Make no mistake. Yeah. Like, this is really embarrassing now with the Redfall situation because it's like, how do you come from that?
That was 2012, by the way, just to date it a little bit more for you.
It's what I'm saying. The AI, everything about this game is superior to anything Redfall's talking about. So that's why I get it. Like, I'm like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I could see the disgust. And shout out to Ren, I thought he's Arkane too. He's hardcore Arkane. Like, this game, man, it's just, it's excellent. It's excellent. And I've only played a small portion, and I'm looking at it. I looked at the skill trees. I looked at the abilities. I looked at
how they change the game, bro, and the way you play.
I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, then I can turn them into ash so that I remain undetected. Then I can do the leap, the blink. It's a sandbox that is truly immersive. And then I care about the world that I care. This is a great patrol. I'm like, yo, I gotta get them back. Yo, they had me tortured up. Like they really try to frame the kid. Now I get the name Dishonored. I'm like, oh, they took my it's all coming together. And I'm like, okay, I gotta get Shorty back. She might be the heir to the throne. I gotta see where this is going. But where's this spiritual, supernatural thing coming from? There's so much. And then the mask and the energy. And I'm just like, yeah, it's a COG game because it's pure.
You're gonna
stealth.
love the mission diversity. There's some really good ways they change it up in smart ways. It's incredibly good.
Excellent. Shout out to y'all. This is one of them. This is one of them things. Arkane. Now this was Leon. Who is this? Who is this?
Leon. Yes.
Yeah. See, it's Leon.
But they Prey, if you ever get around to that, you might get further disgusted because that was Austin, and that is the Redfall team.
Oh, so nobody don't like Prey. How's the Prey energy?
Prey energy is super high. People love Prey. I think people like Prey more than Dishonored.
More than Dishonored? Yeah. Oh.
I think Prey is amazing, but I like Dishonored. And I'm a sci-fi guy. I like Dishonored way more than Prey, though.
Okay.
But I think it's fair because Dishonored had 3 games to build itself out. So there's also that progressional love. Prey is a one-off, phenomenal game. So if you need that 1-to-1 at some point, Prey's a longer game though, for sure. You can. It's like a 20-hour game. You can spend up to 40.
Okay.
But like, if you want to see what Arkane Austin was up to, where they're at now,
yeah, I need to know what happened, bro.
That will stay because Leon. If you look at Dishonored 1, 2, Death of the Outsider, and Deathloop, you can see a kind of progression of like they've stayed in the pocket for the most part. Supernatural assassin, right? But yeah, with Austin, man, just. from Prey to
bro?
Yeah, it stinks.
Yeah. So tell me where you at. What's going on with your Dishonored play?
Yeah, so I'm my only game I played this week was Dishonored Definitive Edition. Now that's the reason I'm stuttering up a storm this episode. I'm losing my brain and frying out. I have been closing the house, y'all. I have been running around to 1,000,001 doctor's appointments to get that issue that stopped me from the Last Stand event solved. Mm-hmm. We're starting to get answers on it. I'll share my answers when they're like definitive. I'm not trying to be cagey with you all. Just like, I don't, it's nothing death defying, so don't gotta worry. But just, I want to deliver you all the information when I get it. But that has had me running all over the place this week. It's concluding Friday. I'm very thankful for this, but I am burnt out. I truly am actually burnt out. So I picked a perfect game last week when I started up Dishonored Definitive Edition because it is just about a 9-ish hour game in my experience. So it was, I beat it again and I did a low chaos playthrough, and I'm going to try to talk about it without referencing Redfall as much because I think that might be like the low hanging it's different for you. It's like your first time, but like for me, it's like I've had so much time to let this game rest in my head and marinate, and like it's coming back. I'm just so impressed by the creative energy that Arkane has, because they take these places that I'll just say exist, and the way that you see them in the game story-wise versus how they're used when they're playable spaces is fantastic. Like you'll see hints of it in certain points of the story, and then you realize it's part of the overall level. And for such a linear hub-based game, it makes it feel way bigger than it actually is. The only technical hang-up I noticed, and I think you'll share the same thing, Cog, is missions are already in this game kind of split between loading screens. You know, when you go inside a building, you can just go in. It's not like Dishonored 2 where they pretty much get rid of that. In this game, when you go in a building, it'll most times, if it's a significant building, loading screen. And there's a stretch in the game, I think it's like the 7th or 8th assassination mission, where you have to go through like 5 loading screens. Just as you go from one map to the next to the next. And it is a little long-winded and disorienting, but otherwise, I took out every target because like what you'll notice, Cog, is you can kill every target, or there's a creative non-lethal way to do it.
Yes.
And I did the creative non-lethal way each time.
Ooh,
and
nice.
It brought that immersive sim stuff to the forefront, where just the way you interact with people and how you get this person out of this position without killing them. Mm-hmm. It's just thoughtful because it doesn't feel like they're reaching to make these things happen. I don't want to say what, because I don't want to ruin it for you, but just they get really creative with removing people of power from certain positions and kind of keeping your hands free of blood. And it brought me back to high school, man, because when I played this game last in high school, my final Dishonored playthrough was actually, well, I shouldn't say final, but the original Dishonored was a ghost mode playthrough. I didn't get spotted once. Ooh. I got the achievement for it. Like I was obsessed with this.
Fire.
So to come back after, especially I love Dishonored 2. Like to me, that's the best stealth game made. And from that point forward, we still haven't seen anything really touch its level of quality. But with that in mind, I'm surprised how much I still love the first Dishonored, minus the nostalgia. Just on its own, it's a great game in a hub where you can do 1,000,001 different things, but it's not overwhelming. Like, we just need more games like this. I don't know how else to put it. The silent protagonist was a breath of fresh air. I'm tired of everyone trying to be an eccentric personality and scream at the microphone and say stupid shit to get views on Twitter when they get clipped. Just shut these protagonists up, because Corvo is a perfect example of you understand him, his motivations. You make the choices for him, though, and he has an arc without him ever speaking, ever. We need more of that. Not this atomic heart, whatever the hell this guy was saying the whole game. None of this Forspoken. We need more of this. Like, I recommend developers go back and play 360 PS3 games, because y'all had something there. We had this blending of next-gen technology at the time that was letting us make these bigger and better games while still being limited in ways where we had to make choices to concede, like, yeah, let's not voice the protagonist. Let's focus on just choice. But since every AAA game tries to be a do everything game, they lose focus almost 10 out of 10 times. And I just appreciate this game so much because it knows what it wants to be and does it to the maximum. It knows it wants to be a immersive sim as a supernatural assassin, and it fucking nails it. Nails it so well. just an amazing video game. And again, a brief playthrough with that. The second one, if I got the time, I might actually hop into it. Like I might go all the way, because now at first it started off as Detox, but I was like, I'm just enjoying myself. This is so good. This is so good.
You had to go back to the essence. I love that you had to go back to the essence.
I kid you not, bro. I saw people writing in the comments saying they did the same thing. Jez did the same thing. I did the same thing because I had to check. It's easy to get jaded into if my attitude this show has been anything to go by. It's easy to get jaded in the industry. I had to check myself. I had to be like, yo, Matt, like, you're busy right now? You're overwhelmed. Are you feeling the negative spirit take over? Now, let me go back. Let me see. Let me just humble myself. Like this old Dishonored game may be just some liquid ass, and I got to make sure. And I was not wrong. It was amazing. So I just recommend to people who are listening, and we got to write in here from Midnight I'll Read. If you're really on the fence, I feel more confident than ever in saying, like, give it a whirl. I don't think you'll regret it. So Midnight writes, greetings, Dukes. This question is primarily for Big Matty Plays, but definitely feel free to chime in, Cog. On last week's episode, you were encouraging us all to go play Dishonored. I have never played a Dishonored game or Prey. My question is this. As someone who's not a big fan of stealth games, would you still recommend it? I am more of a Leroy Jenkins type of gamer. I'm kind of impatient. I try to approach with stealth, but usually I'm found out pretty quick, and then it's time to throw down. With that being the case, is Dishonored or Prey still for me? Why or why not? Thanks, and having Xboxes down. But come June 11th, we're back. We never left. Kinda day. Shout out to the LSM Discord. That's we're back. That's what they've been saying. Yeah. We're back. So it sounds like Cog is doing a high chaos playthrough because you're killing people. But you can go through this game aggressively, and that's the strength of Dishonored, because it is an action game, but it's marketed as a stealth game. So you can run around, shoot, you can get powers, because like I did a full playthrough and got every rune, which is what you use to upgrade your powers.
Yep.
And I didn't you can't fully upgrade the entire tree, which is amazing because it puts you in a direction. You kind of got to play to your strengths.
Lean in it.
Since the skill tree isn't so huge though, it's not like, oh man, I really missed out on that. I shouldn't have done that. So you can play this aggressively. You can mess up and correct right or wrong. You don't have to be a stealth perfectionist here. I prefer to play that way, but you don't have to do that with both games. And you can get aggressive, you can get unclean and solve the situation. Like you don't have to be perfect. And if it has to go guns blazing, you can handle it that way. It's a little more difficult, but you can do it that way for sure.
Yeah, you can. I will say games the thing that Dishonored does that incentivizes me to play stealth though, as I love the end of mission kind of recap and how they rate you and how, you know what I'm saying? I think that I love when games do that, because I'm like, yo, I could replay that because I know I could just do a little better. You know what I'm saying? So I like that. I miss that from games.
Yeah, because you can reload the missions from the main menu. So
yes, absolutely. And I noticed like 2 or 3 DLCs, by the way.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. The late Nate writes in, hey, fake Dishonored fan Maddie and the illustrious Cog. I just wanted to write in with a quick, Maddie, you did Cog dirty with your Dishonored 1 recommendation. You told him he could skip the DLC, which is a crime for the first Dishonored. The 2 DLC campaigns, The Knife of Dunwall and The Brigmore Witches, have arguably some of the best level design in the series. And the story, in these DLC campaigns is required to understand what is going on in Dishonored 2. Further, the DLC campaigns actually take your high or low chaos rating for the main game and change some things in the DLC campaigns. The DLC campaigns also have their own high and low chaos endings and gameplay implications, as well as new powers. Cog, if you play Dishonored, please play The Knife of the Dunwall and Brigmore Witches. They are included in the definitive edition. Maddie, shame on you for saying these DLC campaigns aren't necessary. You can skip Dunwall City Trials, though, unless you really love the combat. It has no stories. Cheers, and Maddie, I think you need to make a So I Played Dishonored's DLC in 2023 video so I understand where you went wrong. Nate, I appreciate the smoke, but you got to remember, we were in the negotiation phase with Cog at this point. I can't sign up the busiest man in the business to sit down and go through the DLC, all the story. Cog, immerse yourself in the lore, read every little readable in the map. You got to understand, I'm negotiating. I'm trying to get him in the door and be like, see if you love it. And I know how Cog is. Look at Midson. If you love hard.
You know when I love.
Right? So if he loves Dishonored, I'm trusting the process that he might end up in that DLC because there is more. And he might finish that game up in 8 hours and go, oh, I want more. And that's where I come in and say, well, Cog, I have a deal for you. And we go back to the negotiating table once more. This is from the back and forth of Yakuza. This is from the back and forth of Danganronpa. We've built to this point where we don't got to put each other's arms behind the back and be like, twist the arm a little bit like, Cog, get in that DLC now or else I'm not playing X, right? There's a mutual respect established. So Nate, you are absolutely right to give me the smoke. But it was a part of the game plan. And look what happened. This man's loving the game. Loving the game.
You did it. You played that perfectly. You know me well now. You know what I mean? So that was the way you get it. Because again, if you overwhelm me, then I'll be like I'll be reluctant.
Yeah, so right. You'll be like, it looks good, but I don't got time for that.
Exactly. But no. This was the right approach. And I remember seeing the DLCs. First of all, I even love that name, the Knife of Dunwall. Like he's just the ninja of the town.
I think you would like the DLC. The stories are excellent. I will disagree with Late Nate on one thing. You can hop in and understand the story pretty well in Dishonored 2 because the setup is really good. Where I don't think you need to play the DLCs, but does it make it better? Absolutely. Okay, but I think you can get away with it if you're really hamstrung for time and an extra 5-6 hours may be like, you I think can get away with it personally.
Fair enough. But yeah, the game is fantastic.
And just like that, the Late Nate's respect for me. He's like, damn, you had me in the first half. Shout out
to the homie.
All right, let's do 2 warm-up questions and then get into the news, Cog. Lee is Cool Jenkins writes in, hey, Duke, so I jumped on the Game Pass bandwagon back in 2021, in part thanks to the great show. Thank you. We appreciate that. I hadn't had an Xbox since 360 got the Red Ring of Death back in the day. After listening to a few episodes of Defining Duke, I picked up a Series S and, like many savvy gamers, took advantage of the €1 deal and stacked Game Pass for 3 years. My Ultimate membership runs out April 2024. So my question is, what can Phil and Co. do in the next 12 months to convince me to continue my subscription beyond then? As things stand, I won't be renewing. And I bet there are many folks in my position who tried it as an experiment are now thinking the same. Thanks as always, boys. Thought this was a good thought exercise as we get into our number one subject for the news, Cog. If someone's trying to stick around, what do they got to do? Because I feel like eventually there's only so much they can do, but what would the key points be? Because obviously we've really nailed first party. Obviously Game Pass speaks for itself. But where would they have to evolve as a platform?
I mean, it's kind of what I alluded to earlier. I feel that, it has to feel like the place to not only have exclusive first party games, but they have to feel like Game Pass is just this undeniable thing for me to keep, because it's like, oh, by the way, every major third-party release, there's some type of association or tie with it. That's why I feel the Game Pass, the global publishing deals are going to be important. So that's where I stand with it. In order for it to truly grow the way it needs to grow, yes, first party, no question. Their own games, no question. And we should see, stuff from potentially, companies with an O in their name. They got a big one that could be coming around that time. That would be nice to stay in for. But I think it's that. I personally think at this point, we know about the platform, we know about the value proposition, we know about accessibility, we know about all the features and the bells and the whistles and everything else they're doing. But it's ultimately, we're going to talk about games and we're going to get back to games. And I think that's going to be the key. So at that point, April 2024, according to Lee is Cool Jenkins, they have to have enough announcements for you. And I will stay on a limb. I think they will. I think they will have enough announcements for you to say, okay, you know what? Yeah, I need to stay in this, because if I get this, I'm going to get all these games and these announcements that I know are coming to Game Pass. That's just where I'm at. Yeah,
I think Xbox's challenge of retaining the Game Pass subscription is far, far easier than retaining the Xbox loyalist. I think they've made it very easy for people to depart, go get a PlayStation, and pick up some exclusives. But I think with the games showcase, they have a pretty strong chance of making people want to keep their subscription, or at least plan on when they want to reactivate it. I don't know how they do it, by the way, but I know these subscription services have to plan around people canceling and reactivating when things are popping off, which is why it's in Xbox's best interest to really get that pipeline going and continue to deliver every quarter, because they cannot keep missing. And it's something Phil has said. If we were, again, to take his interview at face value, he claimed, I see the pipeline. Like, I see it. It's there, but I get it. It doesn't matter until we start to deliver. But he's like, he was talking in reference to one big game per quarter. And right now, if you look at how the year started, Redfall obviously was a huge miss, so I'm not excusing it. But you look at Hi-Fi Rush, Q1, then you look at Q2 with Redfall. Q3 is going to be Starfield, and I will put money on it that Q4 would probably be Hellblade 2. And maybe you could throw in another game we'll talk about in a moment, but I'll talk about that later. But point being is they're going to start delivering in those quarters, and we're going to start to get used to a new Xbox. It's just about quality. And I think the Game Pass sub will be easy to retain, but for the loyalist, they got to get rid of the second-class citizen. The status there, just they need to get rid of that, because if you're buying a console, no one ever buys a console or a subscription service and says, I might get this game, so therefore I'm going to buy this. You buy it with the confidence of, especially for the people who got to make one choice, you buy it with the confidence of knowing, hey, I'm going to get that. I have a good chance of getting that at least. And Xbox hasn't provided that. Not even, I'm talking about quality measurement. I'm talking like Japanese games. Now we're seeing indie games. Just, we're not getting that guaranteed. It's going to be there. PlayStation, outside of anything Xbox pays for in exclusivity, is pretty much bringing to you. Nintendo, their biggest bar is technology. And still, they're bringing a lot of things to you. So Xbox needs to break down that barrier big time, I think. So they have two challenges in my eyes. We'll see. We'll see. All right. Next question here. Pretty good one about indies. Alex Dies Twice writes in, hello, Dukes. Recently, Maddie mentioned that Xbox fans like to overhype the sideshow items compared to what should be the main event courses. Similarly, do we think that users also overhype and put too much pressure on the indie games that are dropping day and date in Game Pass? For example, I've seen some users mad that a game like Ravenlock, which was done by a very small studio, it was 8 people, by the way, not be a Game of the Year contender or a, quote, banger, end quote, which sounds weird to me, as this isn't what indie games are aiming for. They're looking to add unique experiences that cannot be found in the AAA space. Do you think this attitude is justified, or is there something missing here? Cheers, Alex. And, I personally think it's because the AAA space is lacking so much creativity that indies are called bangers oftentimes because they're doing something different. That's not to take away from their successes, but when they're doing something different or something we haven't seen in a while, it's like, oh, this is a banger. They're doing it. And they're doing it big. And then the reason it's important they pop off is they're defining what trends these big companies are following, because they're, as game development costs go up and up and up and up, they're going to take less and less and less risks, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're going to, when indies are the ones who are like, well, we need to stand out. We're going to do this thing. And then Xbox sees, oh, Fall Guys. Oh, Fall Guys. Yo, where's that 1 versus 100? Can we get that back? So like that, now we're going to take a chance because we know the weird might actually work, right? This weird asymmetrical multiplayer experience. So hey, we got our own, right? Mm-hmm. So I get the pressure, but I think it comes from a place of, we know who's really guiding the industry. Even if we know who's generating the sales most of the time, we know who's guiding it creatively. And I think that does come with some pressure and living up to some type of standard, especially because indies, as you said earlier, Cog, indies, AA, have been thriving on Game Pass. So I think the pressure's a little higher there. But what do you think?
Yeah, same. I think it's just because there's been a lack of AAA, that the Xbox, fan has been, I would say forced, but it has been more apt to play these indie experiences. And then they discover them and like, wow, this is really good. This should be getting more credit. And again, not to disparage those experiences are great. It's just that you want the balance of also the AAA. So I don't want to say that they're overhyping. It's just that you also have to play what's available. You know what I'm saying? And I just think it's availability also in conjunction and discovery. So to me, it's all about balance. It's all about, again, having those experiences, but also having like the food analogies we used to get, right? You know what I'm saying? Like the steaks and the buffet and all that. You have to fill that thing out. That's all. They know what they got to do. It's just a matter of the execution and doing it. And then you'll have more commentary when they do have the AAA game. People really popping off on how much they like it.
Right on. And for those who are wondering, Ravenlock is sitting at a 70 open critic average across 24 reviews, which really isn't bad. Like, I do think that a lot of people also just don't understand review scores. Like, developers don't get upset when they get a 7 out of 10. Obviously, there's a lot of factors that go into it. Like, what was the ambition? How much did you pour into it? How careful were you with things? But like, Ravenlock being at a 7 out of 10 is not an L by any stretch of the imagination. And people are foolish to think so. If you're a team of 8 and you get a 7 out of 10, I mean, you should be happy. And ultimately, we've seen a lot of games which review like shit but sell really well. And that's probably what they care about. Like, they made a Game Pass deal. They made an Epic Game Store exclusive deal. They probably made their money. So reviews be damned at a certain point. Obviously, there's was our efforts worth it? And reviews will guide some sales, but it's not an L by any stretch. And I'm excited to try it out at some point, probably within the next week or two. I'm hoping to do so.
Yes, absolutely. All
right, Cog. With that, let's move into our number one story of the week. So the day after Defining Duke launch, or really the day after we recorded, we learned of an interview from the Kinda Funny XCast with Phil Spencer. And to his credit, Phil came on the show in the midst of everything going on and answered some tough questions. And there was a lot said. And especially towards the end part of the interview, boy, oh boy, was there a ton said. So I have a variety of notes here of key quotes from Phil or key topics he got into, from what they expected internally with review scores to him dealing with the out-consoling of PlayStation and Nintendo, to Starfield being an 11 out of 10 isn't going to convince people to buy an Xbox, and so much more. On the surface level, I just want to start with, like, where do you want to dive into this? Like, what is the topic that's been itching at you? And we'll just go in that direction, because I feel like there's so much stuff there, but I want to start off with you. What's most interesting? I'll pick out that piece of information. We'll just go over it.
I guess we could maybe start with his assessment of what happened with Redfall, and then we could build it into like the great games comment.
Okay.
Maybe?
Yeah. So
if you want to do that.
Yeah, definitely. So what Phil had gone through was, number one, that he had pushed back that teams doing the same thing constantly shouldn't be a thing. As in, why doesn't Arkane just go do another Dishonored? He says that's not what they're going to do. But he agrees that the reception to the game has been extremely disappointing. He mentioned that the review score internally was double digits lower. Or I'm sorry, the review score internally was double digits higher than where they ended up getting with critics nowadays, where it sits at a 60 on Open Critics. So they were at least thinking the 70s, at least. At that point, it was a 62, I think. So again, at least like mid to high 70s, which is problematic. They committed to supporting Redfall. They said that they have a good timeline for 60 frames per second. He referenced things like Sea of Thieves and Grounded as, hanging with them to make them better, but takes responsibility that Redfall is a $70 game and there's just no excuse. But he restates that there's a commitment to Xbox, that they're going to be around, that they're not going anywhere. And the last thing I'll touch on here, and then we'll kind of get into some of our thoughts, is that what the problem was with Redfall was it didn't hit its creative target. He said that we can work on animations, texture streaming bugs, AI issues, but Arkane didn't hit their own internal creative goals, and argues that a delay would not have fixed the problems with the creative vision for the game. Thus mentioning before this that they'll build games that will review in the high 80s and the 60s, and that's the part of game publishing. And if you're afraid of that, then you shouldn't be in the entertainment business. You should be in the games business. And he says, when we underdeliver like this, we're going to have to check our process. So a lot of reflections here, Cog. A lot to be said, but they're hanging with Redfall. They're disappointed. They thought it would be much better, it seems, internally than it actually was. And also admits that they knew it wasn't going to hit 60 frames on consoles at the time of showing the gameplay from IGN, and urges that the transparency needs to be better. So that's where the Redfall talk ends. Afterwards, we have showcase stuff. We have, of course, the console sales and whatnot. What do you make of his statements on Redfall? Because I was surprised on one thing, which is I thought he would have an interview maybe like this at some point, but you want to give Redfall the best chance to not just throw it under the bus and be like, yo, wasn't it? But to me, this is the biggest confirmation anyone could get that the head of Xbox has come out and said, like, yo, yeah, we got it wrong. And that's it. And any chance of maybe these companies profit off of it, like fooling someone like, oh, this looks cool, bye, is pretty much getting erased in real time. And especially no matter how good or bad Redfall ended up being, people spent a lot of time on this game. And to kind of get thrown under the bus like that definitely sucks. I feel for Arkane big time on that. So again, with all of that information, take it away. What were you feeling about his statements on Redfall?
Yeah, I mean, look, kudos to him, first off, for going into a hostile situation. Not that Kind of Funny's hostile. Just in the sense of, this is one of those interviews you could easily, reschedule based on how bad the climate is. And look, as a, one thing about leadership is also how you react during the tough times, right? And this is clearly a low. We talked before about how this is kind of perceived as a breaking point for the Xbox fan, when they were told to wait, and now we get a situation like Redfall. And they, look, he claimed ownership. He claimed, that, look, they should have been in there earlier, as far as the pipeline, as far as helping them out as a studio. He mentioned Unreal Engine. He mentioned, I will say I do struggle with the internal review of what they thought Redfall is, because there's a part of me that's like, okay, well, what was y'all playing? You know what I'm saying? To be that I played it. And then maybe in fairness, it was kind of how we had that vertical slice of what we played. And maybe they thought, okay, this should, review much better. So to me, the main thing I got out of it is the transparency issue. And the fact that, what they showed in previews. Think about this. This game was shown as a just one more thing at the end of a showcase.
I agree. Yeah.
And everything prior to what we saw, it looked solid. It did not look representative of what the series consoles are playing right now. From a graphical, technical, AI perspective, it did not look horrible. So to me, it is a form of false advertisement. And to his credit, he addressed like, yo, we can't have that. I internalize this as Arkane, Bethesda, y'all messed up.
Yeah.
I'm going to die on my sword right now because I'm a leader and leaders are not supposed to throw people under the bus. That's how I internalize it. In my opinion, again, it's not making excuses for Phil Spencer. This was a horrible look for Redfall to come out the way it looked. It is. It is. There's no dancing around it. There's no sugarcoating it. It's just that I have to look at it as a leader, you're not going to say, yo, y'all the worst. Yeah, them dudes is the worst that we, you know what I mean? You're not going to do that. You're not, because at the end of the day, they need to still make things for you and you guys have that relationship. But you best believe that this pipeline better be improved as far as who, from an internal standpoint, whether it be, let's be honest, Bethesda, this is showing that Bethesda's operating independently.
Yeah.
That's how I internalize it. Like they are still, when it comes to a publisher-owned relationship, they are not synergized the way Xbox Game Studios. And again, shout out to Jez Gordon who put out the article. People were coming for Matt Booty during this period too, right? People were like, yo, where's Booty at? And from what we understand, Booty is still just dealing with Xbox Game Studios. And to his credit, for the most part, if you look at those releases, they've been fine. You know what I'm saying? Now, 343 withstanding, which we've learned also operate as a silo. So to me, this exposed Xbox as the publishers are doing what they want to do. In Bethesda's case, 343 was doing what they want to do. They didn't have a true indication of how bad the game truly was. And now they had to come in late and they're just finding out it was a scramble. So the lesson here that I got from him is, oh, we have to fix that. And, he died on his sword for that. And, I mean, whether or not people will think it's the right thing to do, I think that is admirable considering, you didn't have to be there. And we know it ain't really you, it's them. But at the end of the day, the buck stops with you. So you're going to have to get the smoke. So that's how this thing works. Unfortunately, that's how the game works. So that's how I took it. I don't know how did you take the Redfall reasonings and answers?
I was a little surprised when he mentioned the creative issues with the game. Not because, I mean, it's obvious when you play it, but I was surprised he called it out so directly because that was the general snapshot of the game's issues. It was like, this isn't just a buggy game with potential. It's just, again, not a good game, as I said at the start of the show. What surprised me more was two things. It was number one, the fact that their review team internally scored this higher. what? That's another part of your internal process. You gotta analyze like that. The fact that they must have been taking the day off. Like, yeah, it feels good. Yep. 75. Sure. Anyway, just that's the energy I got from those dudes because you're telling me anyone could have laid eyes on this in its rawest form, by the way. I need to specify that because obviously we laid eyes and hands on it, but anyone who saw it in its final form would see and go, oh.
The way you said that, like an anime.
Yeah, definitely like not Frieza final form, bro. Like, no.
Not Frieza.
No, not at all. This is whack. And I think people would have been quick to notice that off the intro. You just immediately get that, like, where's the takedown animation? Just little things like that. So that was number one that just shocked me. Number two, I'm not going to lie. I'm not calling for a death of any game, but hanging with Sea of Thieves, hanging with Grounded, I mean, hanging being a generous term for Grounded, which was always great. Miles apart and different from hanging with Redfall. Okay, because Sea of Thieves at launch, sorry, Ben, was unrealized, ripe with potential. And the player base was there because they believed in it. I think you could even go to the very extreme, like to saying there may have been something with 76 as they ripped the guts out of it and placed something else in there. There was a player base that hung around. With Redfall, we'll see when the player numbers come in. But all I'm saying is this game would, and it's not really something I can imagine, this game would have to be design-wise completely overhauled, which is very different from hanging with it like Sea of Thieves or Grounded. And again, I'm not trying to be so cold-hearted as to say, like, I don't like it, so cut it, get rid of it. But they got to understand, I know you got to play politics and be nice to the new family members, but dude, this is not a Sea of Thieves situation. This is not a Grounded situation. Again, I'm going to say Arkane made a bad video game. Rare did not make a bad video game. They made what I'd say was unfinished. What happened with Grounded was an early access product. Redfall, while it is unfinished in a lot of ways, technically, on a creative level, is just missing so much. You're not going to go in and rebuild the levels. That's another big problem. Like, it's fundamentally flawed on every level. So when I heard that, I'm like, I'm going to hang with this one? I mean, it's one thing, yeah, we're going to clean up the mess. Yeah, we're going to fix performance. Great. Make it the best you can with what it is. But if they're about to hang with this thing for a year or so, I'm just hoping they're not wasting Arkane's time on it, because we know Roundhouse Studios helped with this one. I don't know how much. I don't know if this is a 76 situation where, like, Arkane claimed it's ours. And then it's actually someone else. Might not surprise me too much when you, again, look at the level design. I just don't feel Arkane in that. But I just hope it's Roundhouse's clean up the mess, because I do still think Arkane's talented, making the wrong type of game, and they should go and make something else that fits their talent structure a little bit better. Right. But yeah, it was definitely a bit of him falling on his sword for Bethesda, no doubt about it. The transparency thing was also a shocking admission to me, because while, again, we all knew it, to hear the head of Xbox pretty much say, like, yeah, we kind of lied to y'all. Yeah, we got to do better than that. That was crazy to see, man, because again, I see a lot of people. I love Phil, don't get me wrong, but I see a lot of people backpacking. I'm like, look, man, at least he's out there saying all that. No. Again, this is what I talk about with the moving the goalpost bullshit. This is not that small victory you're looking for. It's not. The dude is the head of Xbox, and they released an awful video game, arguably the worst of this year, and he's got to come out and answer for it. So don't, oh, dude, Jim Ryan would never do that. Stop. Stop, man. Please. So that's the Redfall situation. Anything else you want to add in before we move on to the next little stint?
Just the only thing, again, with what we talked about as far as the internal reviews, I firmly believe this is Phil dying on his sword. So to me, if we, as reviewers or content creators, saw what we saw, and let's just be honest, we had it right, high, low 80s for what we thought it could potentially be, then to me, this lies with a deeper Bethesda pre-acquisition energy. And I am concerned that, I mean, not concerned, but one would think now as a result, if he's saying that there was some lack of transparency, then to me, I get in defense of them. I would think that maybe they play kind of the same thing that we did and thought like it's what is fair shown point. To you when the bosses come through. We use this example for 343, right? And 343, we've heard rumblings like this before where they come around. When they do come around, you're getting not the whole picture. So to me, that denotes you need, this was one thing I wanted to say, you need a finisher. You need like a Rod Ferguson-esque type person who is now going to go into the building and say, okay, that's nice with the build and stuff like that, but through every step of the process where we are and then to the finish of what's the console going to be and the transparency there. I think that's what's this situation exposed. There's no person really hand-holding these studios that are, whether it be Bethesda being a publisher and 343 operating in a silo, you know, say, because we know Matt Bully does the rest. So that needs to change. So I'm hoping this lesson was learned and that person can be hired or moved into the role. But that's
where do we want to jump in from here, man? There's just so many juicy things. He talks about the showcase. Sticking with Redfall a little bit here.
Okay.
Because it ties into Starfield, but sticking with Redfall.
Yeah, let's go.
He says that they could have engaged earlier with Arkane on Redfall, but that they've done a better job with Starfield on that since it was earlier on in production. But they said they should have been there for Harvey and the team. He said people with the Coalition and Rare came in to help with Unreal Engine issues to help Arkane hit 60 FPS on consoles when they started to recognize it would be an issue. And this is, dude, I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit. This is what I said I was afraid was going to happen. Redfall had to walk so Starfield could run. And now we know what they were going for which makes sense. Bethesda Game Studios is the most prolific developer within that publishing arm. You know, I'm not saying that means they're the best. Like I know people be like, well, yeah, bro. But there's no doubt Bethesda Game Studios is the one making the bread with the games they make.
For sure.
And when you make that investment, I am not surprised at all that this is where Xbox turned their attention to. And in fairness, in defense, I will say I could understand to some extent if they saw the reception of Deathloop and went, they're fine, man. The 76 crew, though.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing over here? Let's see. Yeah. So I get it. But to me, it seems like a severe oversight it sounds like they didn't check in at all. Like, because we know as we went to the press event, Xbox wasn't involved at all.
At all.
We did not interact with the Xbox. We interacted with a Bethesda employee and a separate, as always, there's always like a separate PR team like managing the actual event, but no Xbox involvement whatsoever, which made sense on maybe like the marketing front. But now when you see the complete detachment from all of it, it's again one of those, man.
Bro, it validates it. That's why I got to defend Phil on this one, because it validates that they were truly operating independently. ZeniMax is operating independently. And the gift of it is, yes, creatively, you get them to sign with you and you get, you know, them to do what they, you know, these cool projects. But the negative was Redfall, right? You are completely oblivious until the very end of what happens. And that's what this exposed. Yeah. It has to change.
But what do you make of Starfield getting that focus? Because I think it makes a ton of sense. You know, this is the game. Again, I said Xbox, you know, for the fans had chosen this one. It was the chosen one, literally. And they've been building around it. They've been marketing the shit out of it. Does this, because last week in our episode, for a little continuity here, we both expressed some concern. Like, if y'all left Redfall off the leash like this, what about Starfield? They're making it sound more hands-on, which is a dangerous commitment to make in light of Redfall, because while it's reassuring on one front, like, okay, they're involved, this one means the finger can be pointed right at Xbox. Rightfully so, by the way. Maybe some will defend that Redfall isn't their blame, but now they have involvement with Starfield, right? And if it ends up not being good, that finger gets pointed straight at them. And I'm just wondering if you think this was a wise commitment to make in light of the Redfall news.
I mean, you have to assure a base that just doesn't trust you right now. Let's just be honest, right? They just don't believe anything. It's like, yeah, here comes the apology tour, right? That's the energy right now. Like, it's like, bro, we don't want to hear no disrespect, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, dudes don't want to hear it. That's the thing. So Starfield is the chosen one. Starfield is the golden child. Starfield is the one that is probably the single most important new IP to Xbox in some time. So I think for him, part of him, he has to assure and say, look, this is a different situation. We're in here early. And let's be honest, Todd is his man. Let's just call it what it is.
That's true.
Those two are very, very close. So I think that Starfield is probably more beneficial, probably going to get a little bit more beneficial treatment, preferential treatment than the others. They don't have that relationship necessarily with Harvey and Arkane, so to speak. There's levels to this. Listen, at the end of the day, it just comes down to no one wants to hear this. We're going to see. And to your point, they just put more pressure on Starfield because of this situation.
I feel so bad for that team right now.
That's just what it is. That's where we at now. This is when you do self-inflicted stuff. Everybody looking at you. Yeah, this better be amazing. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Now we're gonna get into his comment, which I thought was very interesting.
We're about to get there. There's one thing
of him pushing back on that narrative, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I know everyone's being patient with us getting to the spicy stuff, but we got to follow in order. Otherwise, I will completely. Yeah. My brain's already scrambled this episode, so I'll lose my shit.
You're good.
He said Xbox fans can expect answers on Starfield frame rate. Now, if you watch the clip from the Kinda Funny XCast, he literally, I think it was Mike asked him that. He was like, "Can we expect an answer on frame rate?" And Phil just went, "Yes." That was it. Yes. Are we prepared for the 30 FPS reality? Do you think it's going to happen? Because I think it would be a big breath of fresh air for a lot of Xbox fans if you heard, yes, actually, this is going to be 60. Like they did it. But I just, after what Todd said on the Lex Streaming podcast, bro, there's no way in hell this game is 60. I will happily be wrong on it, by the way, but I feel very comfortable saying, look, bro, I don't think it's coming. And especially because I feel like if Phil could reassure anything at that point in time, you think a little frame rate, maybe Starfield will be 60. You don't got to worry about that at least. I just feel like that was a window. And they just kind of, that just simple, yes, no emotion, nothing. Just, I was like, oh shit.
I mean, I know where you're going with that. The only thing I will defend him on that is that announcement is generally reserved for the team. You don't want to take that.
Yes, of course.
If it is 60.
No, you're right.
Which I don't think. But if it is, that's Todd's you want to give them their moment. 100%. So that's Phil leadership. I get it. Bigger man doing leadership stuff. I get it. To your point, I've been telling I gotta pop my collar. I told y'all. I was like, do not get ready for this. Y'all, everybody's 60 Chris Ray gun. Yo, it better be, I don't know, the attic. Yo, if it's not gonna be 60, I can't play. Get ready. Get ready. This man telling you about cups and the design of cups and how he likes the 30 frame cup. Get ready. Get ready, bro. Like, listen, I would 30 frame love cup. To be wrong. I would love to be wrong. Trust me, this would be the ultimate positive shot in the arm win that they need if they could come out there and be like, yeah, 60, shut up. What? We here. No doubt. Salute. Cog will take the L. I won't doubt God Howard again. But in this particular case, he has sent every signal of what he values. So I have to take him for his word unless he proves otherwise. But to your point, yes, would I've loved Phil to drop the beans and say right then and there to show the base? Yeah. But I think he's like, look, he knows what it is already. And it's like, yeah, it's not in my place to take their moment. Again, Phil being a great leader he is. And do that. So that's what that is. But we'll get the answer. I believe him. We'll get the answer soon. You're not gonna. He said it quick, so he knows it. Like, it's just that he ain't willing to tell you until Todd tells us.
Mm-hmm. Let it be Todd's headache.
Yeah, let him try. Yeah, he's like, you gonna get that smoke, Todd, if it's 30.
All right, let's get into the big moment towards the end of the interview. We'll talk about the showcase stuff afterwards, but this leads into, as he was talking about Starfield, the big 11 out of 10 statement. He has disagreed with the idea that if you build great games, that console shares would shift. He states that they've lost the worst generation to lose, where everyone built their libraries digitally, and that the new console generation is no longer a clean slate, where it's back to the old days where you just get the box copy and that's it. There's no restarting on that. So they lost the worst generation. Then he states that if Starfield were an 11 out of 10, it would not make people start selling their PS5s to buy an Xbox. And we got write-ins on that one, man. We got write-ins. Let's see here. Let me grab one right here. Kai writes in, "Hey, Dukes. I've started the last 3 generations with an Xbox console first, and each time have been pulled away to the PlayStation ecosystem for a specific game and then stayed there for the most part. I bought a PS3 for The Last of Us, a PS4 for God of War and Bloodborne, and am eyeing up a PS5 for Final Fantasy 16 and Spider-Man 2. I say this in light of Phil's interview with Kinda Funny and how Starfield being an 11 out of 10 won't shift consoles. For me, the games are what matter, and I will always try to be where the best games are. Starfield looks like the kind of game that might turn someone's head toward a system, and so the hesitancy to label it as such is a little baffling. Is Phil just trying to ease the pressure on the team at Bethesda? Thanks, and have a I'm feeling unfaithful because the 85 plus on Metacritic first-party games caught my eye kind of day."
Salute.
So this was again the significant one, because he said it's just not true, and that if you start to make great games, that the console shares are going to shift. And a lot of people took that as Xbox is waving the white flag. A lot of people took it as we're out of the race, and he even said we're not in the business of out-consoling Sony, out-consoling Nintendo, and happily relegated Xbox to third. No, I shouldn't say happily. Sorry. He disappointingly relegated Xbox to third place himself as the head of Xbox. Now, is this CMA politics at play? Is this truly what he thinks? Is it true that if Starfield were as amazing as it was, that it couldn't shift the market a little bit? Is it true that if Xbox got the ball rolling, that they couldn't start to maybe not get people to sell their PS5s, but just buy an Xbox or a Game Pass subscription? I have many thoughts, sir, but I'm dying to hear yours. What do you make about this iconic Phil Spencer quote?
This is the quote. This is the one. This is everyone's talking. Look, man, when I first listened to it, my reaction was not good. I got to be honest. My reaction was not good. My reaction for the first time, and I don't disagree with Phil often. Now that I think about it, not too many times I didn't like it. Now look, if I'm going to go corporate cog and I'm going to go, was he lying? No, he's not. He's telling the truth. See, this is where, sad to say, his honesty and transparency can sometimes be misconstrued as a weakness. And I want to be clear. What he is saying, if I'm in the corporate, what he's saying is not inaccurate. He is correct. No single title is going to move the needle and say, okay, I should say, but it's going to get people to stop. Like, they did lose the job. I've been saying that for the Xbox One generation was a generation they was not supposed to lose. That was the digital era that they fumbled the whole ball, and now they made people switch teams from the 360, and now they're staying in the PlayStation ecosystem. Period. That's a fact. That's not no hyperbole. It's not defeatist talk. That's just the reality of the situation. Now, here's the problem, though, where I lean with Mr. Matty Plays and Solve is that, because Solve said it really eloquently on ILP, is that even though you're telling the truth, this base doesn't need to hear that. This base deserves to be treated like the first-class citizen, not the second-class one. This base, as accurate as that is, that's probably one that I feel he would probably, in retrospect, wish he may not have said and given us those bars and just said, you know what? We're going to fight very hard to make the best quality games on the platform. Because the thing is, even though one single game won't change it, which he's right, if you have a consistent plethora of quality games on this service that you're looking to promote, you can turn things around. Now, granted, they've made a shift. They're not in the console business like that with the, going head for head. They're in the subscription service. He literally said they have made a pivot to win our other way. He's also said, if you caught the bars, I don't know if you caught this, Maddie, that low key Sony has been doing tactics to block them. He literally inferred that they are he's straight. I was like, oh, this is
straight up said that PlayStation has been buying out these games.
Literally. So this is the most raw. I want to give him credit. This is the most raw, honest I've ever seen an executive say. Like, this is just wow. Like, he's giving us behind the scene bars. The only problem, and I have to be transparent, I did not like the optics of it, because the optics of it makes the Xbox fan feel like, yo, you're a second class citizen. And guess what COG did? And COG don't never do this. COG utilized powers. And I said, I'm going to reach out. It didn't sit well with me, Maddie. And I said, hey, if I lose access, because I'm going to go in. I don't like being told I don't like the inference that I am the second class citizen or the Xbox community is. I just don't like it. So yeah, I reached out.
Okay.
And surprisingly, I got a response. So all I will say is this. I said, look.
You reached out to Phil?
I think, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. And I said, look, I know you value quality games. I don't even think that's a question here. I said, I used a famous defining, I'm going to push back on something you said regarding great games. I said, I don't like this thing because I said at the end of this day, this base is extremely loyal, and this base lately has felt like second class citizens, period. Right. So even though I know what you're saying is accurate to the letter of the law as far as the console space, and I know that the services push of what you're doing is your long-term goal, and I get it, I said they can't be made to feel this way. And I said quality games always should be valued as paramount. And I was surprised. I was like, oh, I don't mess up I don't care. Like, listen, y'all know me. Me and you've had these conversations offline. With any of these companies, like they like you today, they don't like you tomorrow. I'm going to tell you the truth. What's my motto? I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear, is what you need to hear. I did not like that statement, Phil, period. So to his credit, COG, and we keep this conversation, the whole of it, but the gist of it was COG, don't ever feel that you be disrespectful by voicing how you feel. And I 100% hear where you're coming from. And I definitely, it wasn't taken in any negative, way. He actually took the feedback, so which I respect. Again, proof of good leadership. But it didn't. I had to say it, man. It didn't sit well with me in my soul. You know what I'm saying? Like I just can't.
My man went to the top. I love that shit. The audience is gonna love that. God damn,
bro. You gonna have to take all access, no review codes. I called the homies. I called the laws. Like, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but I just killed anymore.
Just know COD died on his soul for a good call. Same thing, Bethesda. I love y'all. Xbox, I love all these people. I love y'all. Same thing. I had to come at Bethesda last week. I was like, bro, I felt deceived. I'm going to say it. I guess if I don't get a call, y'all understand what happened. If Lognet don't get, y'all understand. And the same thing, if we lose any, I don't care, because at the end of the day, this base deserves better. It just does. And I didn't like it. So, look, I know he values quality games, but they got to show it. They got to show and prove. And I think this is an important moment based on, and I want to say one last thing, because I think this is what I infer has happened. I got to be careful now, because this is really deep shit. So, excuse my language. Yeah. Look, I think I know what happened. I have, how you have two friends who you respect, but they don't really agree and get along. I would say get along, but just don't agree. I think this is a situation where two friends, prior to him going on that interview, there was stuff said. And people were saying, yo, Starfield got to be amazing, or it's over for Xbox. So he came in with that energy, like, don't do this to our brand. And there's more going on, which he's right. I understand that. Right? I understand it, because there was the emotionality of Redfall, and I get that. Yep. I think that's what happened. He came in, and let's be honest, the man was disheveled. He was looking, he even said, I'm grumpy Phil right now. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know what happened. You know what I'm saying? I think in my heart of hearts, I think the man just probably shouldn't have taken the interview, but to his credit, he did. And he probably misspoke on that aspect. But remember, you're Phil, so everything you say is going to be taken to the upteeth level, and that's what it is. So, and the last thing I want to shout out Benji Sales. He actually had a great point too, and the reason why the Great Games comment resonated the way it did is because again, we're from the era where we've seen generations turn around. Remember the Nintendo Wii, right? How dominant they were. Then the Wii U came, and they were almost out of here. But guess what happened? This little Link came back in Breath of the Wild and turns a whole. So games can change it, bro. Games can change it. That's all. I know he values it, but I had to say that to the LSM audience because, when something bothers me, I don't care who it is. I'm going to tell you to your face or whatever. And I just know I'm going to be respectful, but I'm going to tell you if I don't like it. I had to say it, but the feedback was noted, and I respect him for that.
That's awesome that you reached out like that. Yeah, it's funny because it was completely separate and had nothing to do with what Phil said, but I'm working on a collab with someone. I had to reach out to Bethesda to confirm some information about Creation Engine. This is in a post-Redfall world where, I absolutely took a dookie on them. And I was like, I'm trying to do the right thing and confirm the official information, but let's see. And they actually did, to their credit, get back to me. And I know it shouldn't be a big deal. It really shouldn't be, but this industry is so flooded with nepotism that the second you piss someone off, you've immediately lost your opportunity. And much like COG, it's just like you shrug your shoulders and say what you're going to say because one day you're going to piss someone off. One day they're going to be like, yo, we love you, man. Like, great work. So I don't give a shit about any of it at this point. It's just I've done this long enough to know that just like it's whatever way the wind's blowing. And so it's great that you reached out like that. For me, man, like, I get that he references like the Xbox One generation was the start of the digital library, but I feel like it's foolish to just ignore what happened with the PS3 and 360, where I know production of the 360 slowed down. I know it was the Red Ring of Death, but let's not ignore that PS3 started to really deliver hand over fist, amazing exclusives, capping off a generation with one of the best ever in The Last of Us, and beat Xbox at the end of that generation. And the 360 is their most celebrated, most successful console. And then that set them up to storm into the PS4. Granted, Xbox One made its own mess. But the games, man, the games always define these consoles. And I'm not going to repeat your Switch bar. That was one of mine. I was like, yeah, that's a good one. But no, you're good. But it's like the idea that I don't care how emotional you are, bro. The idea that you could even remotely suggest that and think it's going to go over well, he must have been feeling some type of way, truly. And I do feel bad for him in that regard because not only is it foolish optically, but he probably's got all the data to shut my ass up. But honestly, as a fan and as a developer, I think that's so far from the truth. I don't think Starfield on its own, being amazing, is going to flip Xbox. But make no goddamn mistake, if Starfield, Forza, Hellblade 2, and Avowed come back to back to back to back and are all these great games, momentum, this will be a far gone dark, brief moment in a generation rather than a defining moment for the rest of it. The idea that we can come out and say something like that is baffling to me. And I don't know if, to answer the question from earlier, it's to take the pressure off of Bethesda or not. Again, I think it was just transparent Phil doing his thing and his emotions. And I don't know if he had even the rationale with his disappointment to be like, like I should say this to kind of protect Bethesda, because he had before that no problem blatantly throwing Arkane under the bus, which I guess that's already been said and done. But I can't imagine what that call with Harvey was like. Yeah, I'm about to hop on with Kind of Funny. And like, you didn't hit your internal creative goals. Like, I'm going to kind of say like, you kind of fucked up in a way that sounds really corporate and nice. Hope you're cool. Like, I don't know if he breezed this by him or not, but to me, I don't get how he could throw Arkane out like that and then protect Bethesda. So I think he was just speaking candidly, which is great and all. Mm-hmm. But I do think as nice as the interview was to talk about and to get something to really discuss, I think it was a mistake because I think he painted a really bad picture for Xbox fans. I really do. And I can't budge on that because he just, Starfield is the game again that you're showing that lack of awareness as a platform holder that's hurting you constantly. Starfield is your biggest game of the year and your biggest game of the generation. Before we even see a direct on it, to suggest like, yeah, even if this game is fucking gangbusters, baby, doesn't matter. And the fact that we're talking about out-consoling, no one cares truly outside of Twitter about if you beat PS5 or not. We just want to see you compete. No one's telling you yo, go out there and make Starfield a banger with Hellblade and Avowed so someone drops their PS5. Is that great news for Xbox? Yes. But when you're in the subscription business, all you got to do is convince people you're worth their time. That's all. Absolutely. You convince them you're worth their time. They don't got to sell their PS5. It's $15 a month. They just got to buy a subscription. And I get that he said earlier that, yeah, that's our approach, but I just can't shake off. Like, that was an icky statement that again, put that pressure on the showcase. Like, you got to put up or shut up now because you've hurt yourself. Go on. Sorry.
No. Well said. Well said. I just want to add that I agree with you, right? I just want to add that if you look at the statement, it came not from a question. It was I want to add one other thing. See, that to me showed that it was something that was brewing,
eating at him,
right? Based on things that was here. And so, when somebody been talking and you like, nah, I just want to address something right quick, right?
Like, while I'm at it.
Exactly. That's what that came of. And I agree with it. I think he misspoke. I'm just gonna be honest. You know what I'm saying? I do think he misspoke. But I think what it was is coming from a position of people in defense, people saying, yo, if Starfield doesn't hit, they're out of here. Right. And in his mind, he's like, yo, that's not the case. That one single game is not going to change everything. And by the way, because remember, one thing he also alluded to was like, he was inferring that it's like, yo, I know this roadmap and I know y'all don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I can read the information on that. But
yeah, like he inferred like, yo, but he even made a statement like anything. He said he failed. I have failed. He said, he told parents like, stop sugarcoating this. We failed, right? Then he said, nothing I say is going to matter until you hold one of these and you're smiling.
He said, we've got Starfield, Forza, Hellblade 2, collections of a game. We'll talk. Great builds of Avowed. I can see it coming, but it shouldn't matter until folks are out there playing and enjoying what is made.
So to me, the misspoke happened because, in my opinion, this was to kill the narrative that everything is on Starfield. And if Starfield, to your credit, I think he was saving. I think this whole interview was a saving and put down on the sword for Bethesda. Just to be clear, this is like Bethesda making you kind of look bad, but you going to be a leader and take the fall for the missteps. But it was to answer that. Now, to your point, to Saul's point, I agree that the problem now is that you give these optics like great games don't care. Like, does it going to change things
and I
around?
Know that's
like,
not what he meant.
And
exactly. It's not even, dude, how could you misspeak? It's just more so that you're undermining Starfield's importance. To me, that's the big problem. It's not the misunderstanding. It's just you are undermining how important Starfield is. Do I think it's going to turn on your generation? No, but I do think it could be your Breath of the Wild moment, if you want to use that as a term. I do think it could be that moment of, yo, that's sick. And I can only get that there. And that's the starting point of just catching interest. Yes. And that's where the built momentum plays a factor. Yes. Is it all literally on Starfield? No, but it's foolish to not recognize publicly, at least. I don't know if they do know this internally at this point, but it's foolish to not recognize that this is a game that will draw a ton of eyes to your platform, probably more than others. That's no disrespect. I think Obsidian with Avowed and Hellblade 2 probably stand some of the strongest chances, but there's no denying Starfield is that dude. And not a put down on other devs, but you got to recognize that a high tide raises all ships. And if Starfield pops off, it's going to help everyone else. So like, this is the game and you got to understand that.
Yes, absolutely. And like I said, just to confirm, when I went on my diatribe and I went in, and it was a long diatribe that I went on.
You sent him a novel?
Yeah, I gave like super bars. Like it was, because when you're emotional, and he was like, yo, I just can't let it go.
You know those pictures that you see on some of those Twitter accounts of like, yo, pray for my dude, and he's just opening his phone for like his girlfriend, and you just see like a wall.
You're like, yo, she gonna break up with me after this, so I'm getting it all off now, right? It was one of those moments, right? So I did enjoy it, and it was like, Cog. It was the same thing he told in a way, but more detail in my response, but I don't know if you saw, what's his name? Modern Vintage Gamer made a tweet and was kind of like, yo, not only do you need, it was something in reference to quality games, and it went viral, and Phil responded to it.
Yeah.
It went viral. And it was just like, basically what I got, Maddie,
he
was
said, sorry, go on.
Yeah. it's basically like, I know we need quality game. That's all I need. Long as you, that I just needed to hear that because the interview unfortunately didn't convey that as well as I would have liked it to convey. So it was the same energy. I see he gave also MV Modern Vintage Game.
Yeah, he said, MVG said, I don't think Xbox needs to build great games to win the console race. They just need to build great games. And then Phil said, well said and true. So
right,
and that is true. But again, I think it's a failure to recognize the importance of Starfield. But I don't want to become redundant.
No, I feel that. No. And you're right to stand on that.
Yeah,
I completely understand where you're coming from.
With that, we still got to talk about the showcase more here because that's really, again, what it's all about: the pressure of Starfield, the pressure of the showcase. So we talked about. He said we've got Starfield, Forza, Hellblade 2, collections of a game. So I don't know if that was a misspeaking, like if he meant a collection of a game or collections of games, but he said that collections of a game, great builds of Avowed, and then he can see the pipeline coming. And it shouldn't matter until folks are out there playing and enjoying what's made. But also, he did say, because they, to XS credit, they could have just beat the fuck up on Phil, but they were like, come on, give us something positive. And he did say he was excited about the showcase. He did urge he didn't want to oversell it. But there are things that we haven't seen in there. He said there are updates to games on a list mentioned earlier, which consisted of Perfect Dark, Everwild, Fable, State of Decay 3, Contraband, and Hellblade 2. And he mentions that Xbox finally has things lined up where they plan to get big games coming out every quarter that are expected to delight customers. That was his quote of the interview, delight customers. But so, Cog, you pretty much got a list here of candidates of Starfield, Forza, Hellblade 2, Perfect Dark, Everwild, Fable, State of Decay 3, Contraband. And he's saying some of these on this list are going to be there. He's saying he's seeing things for all of these and that pipeline is coming to fruition. So out of that list, specifically the list of Perfect Dark, Everwild, Fable, State of Decay 3, Contraband, Hellblade 2, what are you expecting to be at this showcase? And what do you need for it to be the wow delivery kind of moment?
I hear you going. I don't expect Everwild based on, it seems like, the development has changed. So it almost feels like a soft reboot. I would be shocked if we see it, to be honest. Yeah. Everything else was sorry, State of Decay 3. I don't see you just yet. I know that's on Maddie's list.
I could use it.
I know Maddie's fantasy, Xbox fantasy football. I get it. But everything else though, I think has a pretty strong possibility of being there.
Yeah.
We got to see what's up with we need to talk about, is Fable on there?
Fable is on that list he meant, because the list that was mentioned to Phil earlier was that Perfect Dark, Everwild, Fable, State of Decay 3, Contraband, Hellblade 2. And Phil said, he said there are updates on the list of games that was mentioned earlier that will be at the showcase. So
I think so. At the very least, Fable, where you're at, as far as that, Playground. I mean, look, Booty's been on record for like, I want them to show, but they telling me no. So you got stuff to show. Yeah. So Fable, I expect it. Everything else, like all these things, I expect at least some updates. The only two I will probably say, like I said, Initiative, probably maybe a longer shot based on, they brought Crystal in, they may be still a little bit farther away, but I'm expecting. I'm not coming in here with this don't expect energy for the most part. It's time to show out. Like, it's time. So, I think so.
I will say I think Phil slipped out the fall to holiday window lineup.
Yes.
I do think in that very particular order, especially with information I've received, I think he definitely let it slip how things are going to release. But when he said we've got Starfield, Forza, Hellblade 2, I was like, that's a very particular order. And it happens to match your predictions, but also, I will say, a little scoop here. I have heard that Forza Motorsport's coming out in October. So, and look, this was, I have to clarify because I've seen what's happened to Jeff Grubb. Scoop cut, that's it. Like, that's the scoop. Okay? That's all I got for you. That's all, folks. Now speculation. After this speculation. So if you're going to clip me, you're going to quote me, whatever the hell you're going to do, it's over. It's over. You got your show. You got it. Get the hell out.
You got one. It's Maddie Plays. It's live. Let's go.
But this would set up the fall that I think we were expecting when we talked about it in the previous weeks, which would be Starfield in September, Forza in October, which was delayed from whenever internally to then, and then Hellblade 2 either in November or December. Probably November would be,
Bro.
I mean, that would be awesome, right?
Bro, that's solid.
And then
that's super.
we talked about collections of a game, and one of the collections, as much as you know where my heart wants to go, we hear the Gears collection being rumored. I feel like that can kind of slot in a little bit. I think they are primed for a pretty busy fall. And to me, the most exciting thing that this showcase can do for me personally, not for everyone, but for me, is to really be a big first party showcase. And I think that should be the expectation often, but a lot of it's been the Game Pass stopgap, which has been great, by the way. There is value there. It has been exciting because some of these are exclusives. You get a great surprise. I know it's not a sexy game, but like As Dusk Falls was a great surprise. You'll get cool stuff like that. That's where it thrives. But I want the main talking point here to be first party. And it looks like, as predicted, that's what it's going to be. So I feel like not only did he let it slip, like, hey, here's what's coming in the fall with that specific order, mind you, which would make a lot of sense. But then he mentions Avowed afterwards. And Avowed, I've always said, like, that's got to be January, February. Because I would love to see that right after Starfield, and I'm just getting into that coping stage. Like, man, could use another RPG. Oh, and that's right after the Game Awards. You got a little presence there, maybe. I mean, sorry, speculation going hard now, but like that's what I'm talking about. Like that would be that would start to erase. Not that we should forget, but clean up the mess, right? And so from that list he mentioned of. I've said it a million times, but just again, for the listeners' sake, so they can keep up. Perfect Dark, Everwild, Fable, State of Decay 3, Contraband, Hellblade 2. I think Hellblade 2 is a lock, minus what happened with Greenberg's Twitter account. I think Hellblade 2 is a lock. We've seen it so much. Next time we see it, we need a date. I think that's this year. Just think, no scoop. Contraband, that's another one of those that got announced and then disappeared. And I remember Jez reporting that was originally, this is his original old report, was supposed to be an end of 2022 title. So if that was their internal goal, I'd say 1 year later, 1.5 years later, should fit it into the showcase. So I feel like that should make it. I'm with you, Cog. State of Decay 3. I mean, that would be a great surprise, though. But
it would be great, to see something on it.
Fable, I'm with you. I think it's time. I think this is the one you can bend on and say, we don't got a date, but we can show you this. Maybe give a broad window, like a year. Yeah, I think that is an okay one because the thing is people can't have it both ways. If you want them to win, they're going to have to reach a little bit. And they're going to have to reach deeper into the pocket on what they got. They cannot have that 1 year window that you saw last year if I think they want to succeed. So that may mean you will see gameplay for something that is 1.5 years away. The problem with that urgency is it can lead them into why'd you show us this if it's not like what the final game is like? That's the problem, right? But hold on, what you got for me?
But the blow will be lessened if Starfield, Forza, Hellblade drops this year. Because you can like, all right, I'm playing this heat right now, and I know something else is coming. It's different when it was 2022 and you ain't playing nothing new, fire that's big, and they talk about, you know what I'm saying? That's the difference. You could supplement, and I think that's why Sony is allowed to get away with it because you could talk about God of War I remember they had a JPEG 2021 or whatever. I'm like, that ain't coming out that year. Like in my mind, but they were able to get away with it because in between time, they had games to kind of supplement to get your mind off it. And I think that's what happened. That's why I said I've never had a problem with the vertical slice or the JPEG initially on announcement or the first gameplay joint. But, then after you don't get nothing else and you don't have any first party AAA games on top of it, the pitchforks gonna come out like, yo, bro, what's going on? What y'all doing over there?
Yeah, and then Perfect Dark and Everwild. No, that's your E3 2025, 2026. Like that's where we're talking about. That hell no. There's no way in hell with Perfect Dark is the one I go hard on. There's no way when you lose half the original staff. There's no way this shit's coming out soon. But with Crystal Dynamics, they could surprise and delight, as Phil would say. They could surprise and delight. Everwild, though, hell no. I'm with you. We ain't seen that for a while.
The development on both of those seem a little way off.
Yeah, and I want to see Rare, man. Like I was not a Rare. I'm not saying like I didn't like their games, but I didn't play Rare games growing up. So I just want to see some of that Rare magic, like launch day.
Yes,
I know some people will tell me it's already passed, but just let me live in my little fantasy world. I want to know. I want to get your prediction on one thing here. And of course, anything else you want to throw out there. What is this collection? This collection of, he says, what is it? Collections of a game. So I don't know if it's collection of games or whatever, but where's your head go with this, sir?
I'm going to take a different approach. I'm not sold on the collection that everyone else is thinking. I'm not sold on like it being Gears or it being Fallout. I just think he made a collection of games literally, right? That's how I'm looking at it.
Like, this is why you're so great. You're thinking big. And I love that because I never would have thought of that.
Yeah, I'm like, I get it. We all want that Marcus Phoenix thing. I think they know they need a plethora. They need a bomb. They need boom shot, banger after banger that you go, oh my God, because they know the position they're in. And I think that's where I'm going with it. I think it's different. So look, am I going to say no? Or you want to give me that Marcus? You want to give me that Fallout? Like, let's go.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Dude, Redfall, it's okay, Phil. It's okay if you give me Fallout 3. Dude, in the past. Don't even worry about it, bro.
Facts. And that's the beauty of landing this showcase. Because if you land this showcase, right? Yeah. People gonna be like, Redfall, what? Oh, that was last year.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, Phil.
Yeah, that's the nature of gamers. You know what I'm saying? Very short-term memory. As soon as they see some fly stuff in front of them, all is forgiven. You know what I'm saying? And that's what they gotta do. So that's how I'm looking. I'm looking at they're coming to drown us with stuff. Like, get ready. That when I hear collection. So we'll see.
All right, Cog. Let's move on, unless there's anything else you want to throw out for this interview. All right, so let's move on to Starfield's rating. The ESRB has revealed Starfield will be rated M for mature, and if you're wondering what the anticipation for this game is, you're about to find out as we dissect it for all it's worth. Here is the summary on the ESRB's website. Quote, this is an open-world role-playing game in which players assume the role of a miner tasked with finding artifacts across the galaxy. From first/third-person perspectives, players interact with various characters, complete quests, and search for supplies while battling enemies, such as humans, robots, alien creatures. Players use futuristic guns, lasers, axes, and explosives to kill enemies. Combat is fast-paced with frequent gunfire, cries of pain, and explosions. Attacks on some enemies can result in a blood splatter effect. Several environments depict blood stains on the ground around corpses. The game contains some suggestive material in the dialogue, and after sharing a bed with characters, here are some quotes, by the way. I gotta read these out loud. I gotta do my job, so I apologize to everyone.
Let's get it.
Life is a sexually transmitted disease that is 100% fatal. I'm all for getting a little wild, but next time, let's try it without jetpacks. Talk about seeing the stars. Whew, that was amazing. A fictional drug known as Aurora is prominent in the game, with a section involving players' characters working in an illicit drug lab. Players can also obtain Aurora by stealing or buying it from vendors. Consuming Aurora results in a distortion effect. The words fuck and bullshit appear in the game. The rating has also confirmed that there will be, quote, in-game purchases, end quote, for Starfield. So, sir, how are we feeling about the sex dialogue? How are we feeling about the potential creation club? How are we feeling about blood? No mention of gore, by the way. I know a lot of people were asking about this. Mm-hmm. No mention of gore, no mention of missing body parts, any of that stuff, which I know when people saw that double barrel come out in the 2022 gameplay and he took that shot, there was no blood, no dismemberment. A bit of took your breath away. You're like, oh no, this is bad. But it looks like we're not going to get that dismemberment. Because then if anyone watched my video, you'll see it. I compared and contrasted the Fallout 4 and Skyrim ESRB ratings, and there is mentioning of the off goes your head. So unfortunately, you're not going to be blowing people to bits until mods come out. But Cog, my friend, the stage is yours yet again. What do you make of Starfield's M for mature rating?
I love it, but for the most base reason. It was something about, I was like, yes, sex, yes. I know it's foul to say, but I was like, because you know what bothered me before? When they was like, yo, didn't they have an announcement that they was like, yo, there's no romancing or something romance? Because I was trying to get in my Mass Effect, like, okay, who the crew members I'm a finesse.
Yeah, it was based off what we saw in It was based off what we saw in the Australian rating because the tier for sex was low. And I always thought there would be that type of romance, but Fallout 4 did it in a cheeky way where it'd fade to black and you'd hear some wild out of pocket shit. Like I think McCready would say, I didn't know you could do that with a mute fruit. So again, I think that's what they're going for here in Starfield. Like why do it? I'll always say that Cyberpunk's Achilles heel was making dick physics and putting genitalia on everyone that could flop around or not. Man, what the hell are we doing? Like, come on, we don't need to emulate life that much. Now, it takes time and effort, right? Like some dude's full-time job was making sure a dick jiggled around the right way in your pants. That's fucking wild. But my point being is, why spend that effort there? And now we know why Cyberpunk failed and why Bethesda is going to right the wrong and say, we'll fade to black and we'll use some dialogue.
Okay. Fair enough. Nah, it was dope for me because I'm like, okay, now I'm feeling better about relationships in the game, you know what I'm saying, so to speak. But nah, look, you know, I just like that it's M for some reason. I just like that we're going to get into the gritty. You know, I saw your video, you know, great video that you put up in reference to, you know, the gore potential, you know, blood potential. Look, as long as the combat, I see some stains on the ground, bloodied up bodies and stuff like that. That should be enough. Now, would I've liked this memory? Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, I just like that they're gonna go there. I like when games don't, you know, gonna restrict us, and I want this to have a sense of real centered realism in some dark areas. They talk about they got the Aurora Lab where they cooking up whatever they cooking up over there, and it gave me a little bit of what was it? What was that game? There was another game that did Outer Worlds do? I'm trying to think. Did Outer Worlds do drug use? I thought they did.
I think Outer Worlds, you could consume everything under the sun in that game.
Yeah. So look, I like that. Let's get this going on. Let's get into the factions and see different aspects. So this sits well with me.
Yes, me too. You know, to me, the big disappointment is no gore. I think just that ridiculous gore. It's like you can do it like Skyrim did it, where you take off heads and whatnot. And I recommend people actually watch the takedowns in Skyrim because there's like an 8-minute montage on YouTube. And shout out to the dude who uploaded that because he put like the Broly song in the background too, which was fire. But there's a shocking amount in that game. And there's some I've never seen before. And I've put thousands of hours into Skyrim. So it was unbelievable. Wow. But point being is that was the only minor disappointment. I saw some people getting really ahead of themselves and going like, oh no, microtransactions. So let's just.
Oh yeah. Well, we good.
Join me in deep breathing once more. In, out. Relax.
What are we thinking?
There's a number of ways this can go. I'll paint it all out for you, and probably I'm going to be right on every front because when am I wrong? So, Starfield. I'm kidding. Starfield is going to likely have Creation Club, which we've already seen happening in Fallout 4 and Skyrim, right? This is this program. They hire these modders effectively to make official content for the game. It's usually in Creation Engine 1, not expansive quests, not expansive dungeons, although as time went on, especially Skyrim, the content got better, but it never really took off. That would be considered a microtransaction because in something like Fallout 4, where it was far worse, they're like, here's some new settlement items. Here's a skin. Have fun. Not the best, in my opinion. Definitely felt far more limited compared to Skyrim. That's why I said the Skyrim Anniversary Edition upgrade was well worth it. So it could be that. If you've been paying attention very close to the Bethesda news, and you likely have to be a viewer of mine or another Bethesda channel to know this, I think there's going to be a marketplace in Starfield. I think it would also make a ton of sense with how many empty planets are going to be in the game that they can't fill it out. Let the fans do it. We saw a branch on SteamDB for Skyrim, which was called Marketplace. And there's been a lot of indications from Todd Howard that he wants to work more with modders. He wants to support modders more. He wants people to make a career out of it. And one thing Minecraft does is they bring a lot of money in through curating fan content and putting it on a marketplace. And I think you're going to see Skyrim, Fallout 4, and then Starfield all do the same thing. I think Skyrim, as always, will be the test platform because that game will never fail. No matter what people say, we're tired of it. It will never fail.
Keep buying it. I said they keep buying it.
Dude, you know when a guy puffs his chest out like that, you know it's going to keep selling, right? Especially after all the blowback from 76, he's just like, yeah, they keep buying it, so we're going to keep selling it. I respect the gusto.
I respect the
So
gusto.
I think that's number 2. I think you're going to see a marketplace like that. Number 3 is it says in-game purchases, which would apply to your expansions. Your, hey, I'm going to a new area. I'm going to a new planet, a new quest line. I've paid for this.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It would account for that. Now, does this mean that it's impossible that there is some type of time saver skin? Of course not. But I feel like given what we've seen in Bethesda Game Studios games in the past, this should be what I've presented, the rigid DLC structure moving forward. We'll see, but I know a lot of people immediately thought, oh no, they're going to ruin the game and fill it with all microtransactions. And I will throw out this bone and say, this is the first Bethesda Game Studios game to launch in Game Pass. And
that is
I
true.
do think that can change the approach. So I'll give you that little fair point, but I think they're just going to launch it with either the marketplace, because they said there's a ton of stuff we haven't seen. So that would definitely qualify. Or I'll say the Creation Club being the most likely component. I think having that at launch would be interesting.
Do you think they do a season pass?
You got to. I just
right?
feel like
Yeah.
I feel like you just the caveat with Game Pass day one is I think you just have to have some type of long-term plan. I think we're going to get very little Hi-Fi Rush one-off, Pentiment one-off. A lot of these games, if they can be built to be supported for a while, I think there will be something. Now, would it have to be a season pass? I guess technically no, but if you're going to add the marketplace, I don't think there's a need for a season pass because you got Game Pass, download for free, and then you got this marketplace where you can just buy stuff from. Not that I'm advocating for this. I'm not thinking of their wallet, but I'm just saying, like, if I'm them, that's probably where my head is at and will likely earn them the least amount of blowback. But a season pass, I think if you're planning expansions, which Bethesda Game Studio has been known to do for all of their games, you got to think. And it would just make the most sense, right? You want to monetize this in any way. They're already doing merch. We covered that a couple weeks ago. We know that the collector's edition leaked and it looks fire. Nice little watch. I'm going to swap this bad boy out, this Apple Watch. In the garbage it goes. I'm going to wear my Constellation watch. So, what, you liking it?
I heard a certain jacket might be all right.
Uh-oh. So yeah, they're ramping up on that. I think this is going to get the kind of Halo Infinite treatment. Remember Halo Infinite had like the console, had the controller. So I just think at least they can understand that much. They're like, oh, people are interested in this, huh? Let's build a marketing campaign around it. So I think I say that in a long form answer, that I think they're going to take money wherever they can on this game, because no doubt it is a tremendous investment, a super expensive video game, and putting it on Game Pass, I think it's part of their motto, and they're like, yeah, good, but they probably want to make that money back as quickly as possible.
Yeah, get as much as you can. Absolutely.
Anything else you got to say about what's here on the ESRB rating?
Nah, super hype though. Super hype. I like what I'm hearing, man. Getting closer, and only what is it? A month away?
Yeah, a month away. Man. That's I'm excited for sure, especially about Starfield. It's gonna be hard for that one to fail, I think. But I shouldn't have said that. What am I thinking?
Look, like I said, it's all set up for them. They just gotta cross the goal line, bro. Don't fumble the ball. Just cross the goal line. Right there.
We got a couple other snippets here outside of what we just covered. Number 3 goes to Arkane Austin. I thought this was an interesting little pickup made by, I think, Idle Sloth, where they actually may be moving on to their next game as a new set of job listings has arrived following the release of the game. All of them mention making games for PC and next-gen consoles, except for a tech art position, which specifically highlights something upcoming, where it writes, Arkane Studios is seeking a highly skilled senior technical artist to work closely with the technical art, engineering, and art teams on current and upcoming next-gen AAA games. The ideal candidate can solve problems independently while communicating clearly with future stakeholders and have a desire to work in a creative and collaborative environment. So that's what's written. All the other ones, I read all like 16 of them. Just mention working on, again, PC and next-gen systems, but this is the only one that mentions upcoming. And I thought it was worth pointing out as I did the deep dive, because it's possibly signaling, this is Austin, by the way. I was checking not Leon listings, I was checking Austin listings, that They maybe packing their bags and moving on to the next adventure. It's possible. Not a guarantee, no official confirmation, but this may suggest where they're headed, which I think would be a good thing personally.
Yeah. Especially for whatever the circumstances were around Redfall, you don't want to see a studio go away, and hopefully they get a chance to redeem themselves with a AAA project and make right by the base. That they're literally right now. The reason why Phil is out here having to do apology tours, let's just be real. So it would be nice to see what they cooking up next.
No doubt. And Arcane's usually pretty speedy. When you look at their release cadence, they're constantly putting stuff out because of their Leon and Austin setup. Like they've just been ping ponging. Like Dishonored 2 and Prey were, I think, like a year within each other. So, and if you count, I'm thinking of stuff like the Typhon Hunter DLC, which is like a year later. Moon Crash, I think, was also a year later. Like they're pretty regularly out there. So the benefit with Redfall flopping from their perspective is, I think my guess is Deathloop 2 is going to come in and just sweep that under the rug pretty quickly. Like probably within the next year or so, I think we'll hear about it.
Yeah.
And
make you forget the stench.
Yes, definitely. Imagine that's something. What would we do if they pulled the trigger on that at the showcase? Like you just see Deathloop 2. Ooh. That would be so funny. That would be interesting.
Yeah. That would be. We didn't even talk about, but we didn't even talk about Bethesda's presence there.
This one's interestingly called just the Xbox Game Showcase, so I'm not expecting much from Bethesda, especially because we already seen most of Bethesda's output this year. Hi-Fi Rush, we saw Redfall, Starfield, so I feel like
they got a lot. I
feel like it's just id, which someone wrote in about a couple weeks ago, and id could surprise and delight as well.
Machine Games,
Wolfenstein 3, yeah. Wow, that'd be nice. Wolfenstein 3 was, nice. I think that was E3 2017. Pete Hodge was like, yeah, that's what we're doing next. So is it that? Is it Indiana Jones? A lot of question marks go into this, which could be a good or bad thing. We'll see. Number 4. Well, has the EU approved of the Activision Blizzard acquisition? According to Reuters, we'll know on Monday, May 15th for sure. So by the time free listeners are catching this episode. The outlet has stated that the EU is set to clear this deal thanks to licensing deals with their cloud streaming competitors, as well as Steam and Nintendo. The EU Commission, whose deadline is set for May 22nd, has declined to comment on the matter. Papa Fridge writes in, hey Dukes, just saw this morning a report from Reuters and confirmed by Bloomberg that the EU is expected to approve the ABK acquisition in the coming weeks. Assuming this is true, what are your feelings on the deal should the EU give the go-ahead? Additionally, what are your thoughts for Activision assuming the deal doesn't go through? I know you've talked about the path for Xbox a lot should the deal not go through, but what about ABK? Cheers and take care. Thank you, Papa Fridge. We appreciate you. Obviously, so for those who don't know, we record all our episodes on Wednesdays. Right now, it's May 10th. A lot can change between then and now. We saw this story once before with New York Times coming out and saying, yeah, the CMA, they're going to approve it.
Post. New York Post.
Yeah, so, Post, sorry, did I say Times?
Yeah,
thank you.
You said that.
New York Post saying, yeah, it's approved. Get ready. And the CMA came out and did the opposite. So, for the sake of protecting ourselves from looking a little silly, we're not going to go ham on this, but Cog, I know you probably want to speak your piece as Lord Acquisition. Mm-hmm. So how are you feeling about the EU potentially approving of this deal?
I've still stood on my square, regardless. You know what I'm saying? I know it wasn't fashionable after the CMA block to still think that it's any chance of this going through based on how, like you said, how wrong everybody or pundits were at that moment. They didn't see the CMA. And look, at the end of the day, there's always going to be politics. I think we're at the stage of politics as well involved in this. And that's why nothing is for certain, right? And that's why we can't be popping bottles. I'm with Maddie on this. Like, until that day passes and we see the official statement from the EA, it is still up. I mean, EU, it is still up in the EA, ain't got nothing to do with that, but it's still, up in the air on some level. But to me, knowledge and objectivity and the nascent market and all the things that, Microsoft intends to provide to capitulate to whatever these regulators want, in conjunction with what Cog said last year. And if we're going to do politics a little bit, I did say the EU moves differently. You know what I'm saying? They tend to move different. It's based on my travels out there and the conversations I've had. So we shall see. I'm going to stand on my square that I do think the EU should, pass it. If it does happen, I expect them to move forward with the deal. Now, if it doesn't happen, it's over. It's all the way over. You know what I'm saying? So to me, this is the key battleground state in the politics. Like when you watch the news, Jay, this is a battleground. This is where we at. This is the battle, the fight for the EU.
Yeah, I don't know. When we have all the information, I hear people complain about what we have to say. So part of my reluctance to fully comment, but
of course,
it's definitely one of those deals where I want to buy in and be like, yeah, like they're going to approve it. But after what transpired, I'm a little hesitant. However,
I feel that
if it does go through, I think it's a proper leg to stand on. I think if they're isolated by all three major regulators, not to get rid of all the important ones like Japan approving the deal and whatnot. But saying, like, I think when you're isolated by three of the major ones like that, it's a big uphill battle. I do think Microsoft's going to try to go for it no matter what. But I really think the EU is going to be fundamental in that battle, because if you got to fight a legal war on three different fronts, the amount of time spent on that and the lawyer fees and everything, obviously, does it equate to 69 billion? No, not even close.
No.
But eventually you got to wonder if this is going to truly accelerate their plans, or could they go somewhere and get there quicker and not have this much battle put up against them? With that said, if they were to cancel this deal, they wouldn't be able to go for someone anyway. But I always wonder about taking that money and reinvesting it. I always wonder about taking that money and putting it towards Game Pass. Like, what would that actually look like? And at times it sounds really appealing. I'm not going to lie. Like, I understand for the brand, the value of Activision. I get why people want it. But as Xbox has continued to talk about it, and their real focus on like Blizzard and King and mobile gaming, I'm done tricking myself into this idea that they're going to revive these projects that I always wanted them to see. Y'all haven't even done shit with Fallout. You're telling me you're going to go back and you're going to revive Tony Hawk or something? No, I don't believe it. So to me, I feel like me as the lowly console owner, I don't know how much fruit I will reap from this. So part of my change in tune on that. But I think more to the core of this, if the EU approves, I think it's a good step forward for them. It's one less headache, and it'll show that their moves, their concessions, did have an effect, and maybe that will be something they bring up in court. We'll see. As for Papa Fridge's question about the path for ABK, look, man, you got to remember who's at the top of that food chain. That man's going to go make a deal with PlayStation and give them a marketing deal if they got the money for it. Like, that's how Bobby Kotick rolls. So I have no doubt about that. I don't think suddenly Xbox is going to get the marketing rights, although they should try. I think no doubt whoever's paying, Activision's listening. And that's how they've always rolled.
Yeah, money talk.
Money talk, no doubt. Number 5, last bit of news here. The Series S is getting more memory to improve graphics performance. This is a quote from The Verge, who highlighted what the Microsoft game dev team said in a video detailing the updates to the console. Quote, hundreds of additional megabytes of memory are now available to Xbox Series S developers. This gives developers more control over memory, which can improve graphics performance in memory-constrained conditions. We've seen the Series S underperform in a lot of areas. It's supposed to be a 1440p, 120 FPS capable console, and we've seen it struggle. And some people have even pointed the finger as this is the reason why the Series X ports aren't that great. Now, they share the same CPU, but the GPU setup is different. So I'm wondering, Cog, as the more techie guy of the two of us, what you make of this improvement, especially because you own a Little Man. I've bought Little Man for other people in my life because they were not willing to jump into the Xbox ecosystem for $500, but for $250, they were willing to listen. So with the Series S, it's great for getting people in, but what do you make of the new freed up muscle on the Series S?
Yeah, this is important because, when you look at both SKUs in the Series S to X, with the GPU and the CPU is identical. The issue just came down to, they're fairly identical, but they literally just comes down to the memory, the lack of the memory or lesser memory in the Series S. And this is what I think we got to be honest, some little point of frustration, at least on a minor level, for some developers to try to get the Series S port to, whatever functionality they needed. So I think this is probably them it's like anything else. With a new console, developers be like, yo, bro, can you please give us an SDK that allows us to do X, Y, and Z to tap into this thing a little bit chassis more? You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what has to happen. It comes down to the tools and all this good stuff. But yeah, they've got to give developers the ability to maximize this console. They're going to be here for a while. The Series S ain't going away. So as much as people could say holding back and all this other stuff, this is not going away. They intend this to be an entry point console for their ecosystem. And it behooves them to give developers the tools they need to access and get to the metal and get to the chassis as quickly as possible, as best as possible. And also, like I've always said, I know the talk is what the talk is about holding back and all this other stuff. But remember, these games are made primarily by developers on PC first. PC has lower SKUs than the Series S. It's up to Microsoft to make sure that their kits are easy and accessible to develop for. And I think that's the advantage that PlayStation has right now. Because they don't have this dual SKU approach, there's one, Sony's credit, there's one baseline thing that they have to worry about, and it seems easier from what we hear, and similar to past, PlayStation development kits. That's why it seems that they're hitting their targets more. What Microsoft needs to do, though, is really showcase. It's the only thing I'm really disappointed with them right now. They need to showcase their first-party titles more. The ones that are not beholden to PlayStation and just PC, and these games need to shine to me. And that's why I had to give Bethesda a little bit some more smoke when it comes to, even though I should take this back, even though Ghostwire wasn't developed on first, but they had a year after to now make the Series X one shine. And I didn't see that. I still saw a lesser version. So these things got to get cleaned up. Like, it's just, shout out Jason Rod on the team, love you. But, you guys got to, clean this up. And this is what I'm hoping for with this news by, Tom Warren and his team about what they're doing with the series. This is what they need to start bridging these guys. These games I want to hear about velocity architecture. I want to hear about all RDNAs. I want to see it. That's what the gamer wants to see. They want to see it in motion where you go, oh my God. You know what I'm saying? This is what I'm talking about. Like a Hellblade. I want to see that level of stuff. Let's go. So yeah, that's why this is decent news.
Absolutely. All right, Cog. That's all our news for the week. Time for our Game Pass pick of the week. You, sir, are up with quite the interesting pick, I see.
Yeah, this one. So I was like, let me see what's going on in Game Pass these days. So I'm like, all right, I heard of this game and I heard good things. And I was like, all right. And then when I saw who was involved, I'm like, oh, I know you, Devolver. Come on in, Weird West. Let's see what's going on. Look, this is a pleasant surprise. This was a pleasant surprise. So first off, twin shooter type energy as far as the shooting style. Definitely an interesting take on the Wild West and, the cowboy culture and stuff like that. But one thing I like is, okay, it's top down. You can scale the camera. And the camera's a little weird. I will admit. I wish you could get a little closer, stuff like that. But very brutal, almost like Telltale graphical energy on some level with the way the characters and stuff are like, animated and designed. But immediately I got into this game. Like, first off, very stealth heavy.
Yeah.
Very stealth heavy, going little Dishonored energy, hiding bodies in bushes.
Well, did you know that this was directed by formerly director of Prey, Rafael Colantonio? So funny you bring that up.
I see the influence in this game. Yeah, but it's really dark. It's really brutal. You have your like I said, you got your stealth elements. You have your skill trees as far as the abilities of this. So it starts off like, homegirl, her there's basically, I guess there's like 4 or 5 separate stories. The story that you start off with is like, basically this, former bounty hunter and like her, kid was murdered by like this really wild group called the Stillwaters or whatever. And first you think it's just the typical Western energy and okay, we're going to get back. Okay, cool. and then you got to bury your daughter, your son. You're like, damn, you know what I'm saying? But now, I heard they over there. And then they have this interest. You know what it also reminds me of? It has a little bit of Wastelands 3 energy.
Yeah.
As far as like, like decision trees, how things affect random encounters. There's also travel, like it's little hub worlds where you start, but then there's travel between the hub worlds. And along those travels, random events can happen. You can get into encounters with enemies. You can fight storekeepers. I will say this game felt hard to me. Like this game really encourages stealth as opposed to the all-out shootout type mechanics. You know what I'm saying? Now they got abilities where you could slow down time, do your little bullet time, stylish, what's my man, Max Payne type energy. You got that going on. You got environmental destruction, which I really appreciated, where you can plan out, okay, there's 3 guys here. How am I going to approach it? So it oozes the Dishonored energy. And I was like, so picture Cowboy, here's where it really gets Dishonored. This spiritual little aspect in alien type enemies that stuff is going to happen. It has a dark undertone to it as opposed to it just being a regular cowboy kind of thing. This is worth the look. Like, if you haven't played it, I was really enjoying this game. I was like, this is actually pretty fun. My only issue is the control. I just wish there was a dedicated run button. Like, I feel like it needs that. And everything else, it was fine as far as weapons, just crafting, there's other things going on to it. But I really like Weird West so far. I really must say that it is a pleasant surprise. And usually Devolver, when they put their name on something, it generates quality. So Weird West, man, go check that out if you.
Yeah, the one thing the reason I dropped that game, I got like 10 hours in. It just didn't have the immersive sim qualities I was looking for, because at first it reminded me of Divinity Original Sin, where.
Yes.
It looked like, the thing that Divinity Original Sin thrives in is like every element in that game is interactive, and it's so awesome because of it. The way you can use spells to navigate the environment and just break the game's rules is so cool. And it felt like Weird West was going in that direction, but it went more actiony, which isn't bad, but it definitely lost me with that. But I definitely think those who are looking to get into that style of game, especially with that perspective, like this is a great one. And do you know what the definitive edition adds? It's like brand new to the game, or?
Yeah, it had you know what's funny? I don't know what the distinction specifically, because I mean, I was trying to figure out too. I was like, what did the definitive one do that the regular one did not do? So I do need to look at that. I don't know what that part is. Let's see what they added.
This team says that this port includes, quote, all the bells and whistles, end quotes, from pure Xbox, including 4K 60 on Series X and PS5. So no little man. Beyond the technical details, we don't know much else about Weird West Definitive Edition. So it's just no extra information. It's just maybe a better looking game.
Yeah, 4K. So it looks like just probably like a graphical update. Yeah, 4K edition. I'm running at 60. Yeah, 4K 60. And it is already available. Yeah, it looks like it's just like a graphical, a next gen update, as opposed to, I don't see anything like feature wise that it's added, or like DLC wise or anything like that. So look again, like 4 or 5 short stories. I'm in the first one, and I really enjoyed it. So I thought it was a pleasant surprise.
Awesome. So that's your Game Pass pick of the week, Weird West Definitive Edition. Recently just got dropped onto the service, actually. So go ahead and check that out. And now for one final question before we get on out of here. It comes from Kazdan Risk, who writes in, hey, Dukes, this is a call to action for the audience. I wanted to ask everyone in the midst of this, quote, low, end quote, for Xbox, what made you buy a Series S or X, and why are you glad to stick with it? I can start. I bought mine for Halo Infinite on console, and with it, I got the Master Chief Elite controller. Since then, while I love using my PS5 for exclusives, my Xbox Series X is a great machine for Halo, Destiny, Fortnite, and the occasional Game Pass game. And when Starfield comes, it'll make the purchase even better. I encourage others to write in with their experiences. Take care and have I'm happy with my Xbox purchase despite Redfall and game droughts kind of day. So I thought, as we're trying to, famous last words, who knows how our next episode will go, but as we're trying to pull ourselves out of the trenches here a little bit, hit the reset button. Now maybe hopefully in the rear view until the showcase. Let's remind ourselves while we're here. Why are we in the ecosystem? Like, what did we buy this console for? And just we'll ground ourselves. This is a grounding exercise. Pitcher on the Mets, Adam Ottavino. This dude used to walk around without his cleats on, without his socks on, and he just had his bare ass feet on the ground on the baseball field. And he said it grounded him. I mean, the man came out and pitched well when he did. So I love it. But that's what I'm thinking of here. We're taking off our shoes and we're walking in the field together. We're grounding ourselves in reality. Cog, why did you buy your little man and your Series X?
Look, first thing is, to me, everything, it does represent a clean slate for me. I know Phil disagrees a little bit, you know what I'm saying? But he hates clean slate. But I look at it because to me, it's a course correct from everything the Xbox One, didn't land correctly, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is from a platform and ecosystem. I do like the platform. I will say that, like, the platform itself is home to me. When I pick up that controller and when I'm in a party chat, there's certain inherent features that I just like. Now, when it comes to the games, look, as far as multi-plats, as far as first-person shooters, I always prefer to play them on Xbox. It just inherently feels more intuitive to me. And this generation has given me a lot of sleeper gems on the indie scene as well as the Japanese scene, where I'm like, this is what I want to see. I want to be playing Yakuza Like a Dragon. I want to be playing a game like Naraka Blade Point that no one's heard before. They've done their job as far as the indies and the double A's. Like, again, Track the Yomi, Somerville, As Dusk Falls. And again, the surprises, like games that I'm like, I don't think I'm going to like. And I'm like, okay, no, Grounded was actually really fun. Pentiment was underrated. So all that's missing is those blockbusters, right? So to me, it's like I'm enjoying my time, and then Game Pass is the bonus. I'm like, oh yes, I'm getting this. Like when it came down to the Outriders, the MLB The Show moments, I'm like, okay, this is what I'm talking about. Then when Forza Horizon came, it's like, oh man, I got this for free. Halo Infinite, I feel like I got it for free. That's the type of stuff that I'm like, okay, you see. When 2021, when it's right, like Psychonauts, you know what I'm saying? Microsoft Flight Sim, when it's right, you're like, okay, this is what I expect now. Just that 2022 happened and we are where we are. Yeah. So look, I still like the platform. I'm still bullish on the platform. Super fan of Quick Resume. I'm still going to ride for that from a feature standpoint. And from a value proposition.
I only play I know you I play like one game at a time. So
yeah, I'm missed to bounce around. So it's just like, it's been great for me on that thing. So yeah, it's just the platform itself. I still feel value in what I purchased. It's just that I know it could be way better than this. They haven't fulfilled their full potential yet. So that's where I'm at with it.
For me, I remember when I bought my Series X, I think it was actually done. I want to say Dustin gave me his pre-order because I wasn't going to get it. No games at launch. I was like, the fuck am I buying? But I thought of my content, thought of my channel, I thought of my lovely viewers. And I was like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, let's give it a look. Now, what's interesting is, to me, at first it was back compat. That sounds ridiculous. Like, why buy a next gen system? But like with Game Pass and back compat, I was really impressed. I remember coming out very positive for the game. And it's still the same setup today. My PlayStation 5 is my exclusives, or I guess now JRPG machine, because most come to that platform. But with Xbox, I was just playing everything on it. I was just playing my general day-to-day. And even though PlayStation 5 came out with great launch games, it came out with things like Astro Boy and or Astrobot and of course Demon's Souls remake. I spent more time with my Xbox because of Game Pass. That was like my first real deep dive into it. Like I had messed around during the Xbox One era, but I think like many people, I was over on my PlayStation 4 having a good time, right? And enjoying the superior gaming experience. But with the Series X, I felt like the scales had evened and that both sides had strengths. And that's what kind of drew me to it. And then when I saw the first day one Game Pass game in Outriders, it was that, beyond first party, I should say. It was, okay. I like where we're going here. So it was a culmination of things, and it felt like we were getting on the right track, that Xbox was finally slowly but steadily clapping back. And obviously, as Cog said, 2022 happened. This year kind of happened. And, some blips on the radar for sure. But to me, I think it's a combination of back compat, the Game Pass, and I gotta be real, man. I hate to say it now, but the truth is, when I bought it, the promise of first party was mighty alluring. Yeah, it was mighty alluring. I think that was the year we were coming off of the Fable reveal. Mighty alluring. And then you hear about in 2021 with the Xbox, or I'm sorry, that was the end of 2020, maybe. My years are all fucked up, but the Xbox Bethesda acquisition, bro. Like, that was huge.
Huge.
It was huge. So there was this continued bolstering of what this brand was going to become. And there was faith that you understood what went wrong and that you were going to finally deliver. And I think in a lot of ways they have. In a lot of ways, they got a lot of ground to make up just for themselves, not even against competition. But that's what kind of got me there, right? It was the allure of first party promises. So I'm with y'all. I know how y'all feel. Game Pass. And you know what's keeping me around, Cog? What makes games really appealing now, and this is my retro side of me, is like, what? Cloud. I gotta say,
interesting.
I gotta say, man, when a game's on Game Pass, I don't get excited because of value. I get excited because my Logitech G Cloud has been my best friend.
Nice.
And starting a game up on console, and you know, again, this chair I'm sitting in, I have the same one at home, so all my gaming is done in this chair. And I don't get to kick my feet up ever. So when I see a Game Pass game, and I'm like, well, I know you work on my Logitech. So I'm going to grab that and lay in bed. And I get this experience that is shockingly good. Like, I'm the first to say I did not believe in cloud. I am the perfect person to ask because I did not believe in it at all. I'm like, that's bullshit. Like, you're playing on my phone. Give me a break. I'm not gonna lie, man. That's been another thing that's kept me hooked in, is because it kind of tails out what you mentioned with the cross saves, right?
I was just about to go there. Yep.
It tails out that a bit where I am with you. I want to see gaming go that way, where not everything has to have a cloud version, but I want to be able to take my save wherever. I think that's really important. Yes. And I understand it's not the first thing you think of when making a game, but man, I would love to really have that, because it's been working out so well for Xbox, where it truly feels like an ecosystem rather than just playing in one spot.
No, bro, that I forgot to mention, and that's the real thing too as well, because, you know, as a person who travels a lot, there's just something about being able to continue what you're doing wherever you are, whether it's the PC, and I've tested it with Halo Infinite. I've tested it with a lot of games. Now, the ROG Ally is coming very soon, right? That, to me, local Game Pass device, that anything where Game Pass exists, I can play. And that part of the vision, I do like a lot. I am not restricted. Let's be honest, and no disrespect, PlayStation Nation, I am not lugging that submarine around. that come on, you see the PS5, it's big, and
that's bro. That's a pro and that's system to down.
Yeah, I'm first in line.
I'm first in line. I'm telling y'all right now, I don't care. I've never bought a Pro. I've never bought this mid-gen upgrade shit. I will buy a PS5 Pro if that shit's smaller. I will be right.
Bro, if it's smaller and sleek, I'm not carrying that submarine. That thing is big and doofy looking. It's too much. Like I said, that is uneven. It's like, I'm not carrying that around. Yeah, like, it is not easy on eye. We love the games. We love what it does. But as far as the, you know, again, there's something to be said. It doesn't matter where or what platform I'm on. As long as I log in as Lord Cognito, my stuff for the most part goes with me, there is value to that. And I think their vision is the correct vision long term. Just execute on the AAA stuff, please, so we can ride this thing home, please.
So with that, Cog, that will conclude episode 123 of Defining Duke and Xbox podcast. Sir, it's time for our hashtag this week. We talked a lot about Phil's interview, talked a lot about the pressure. I was thinking maybe DD pressure.
DD pressure, okay, we can do that.
Otherwise, is there any other ideas you got, or should we go with that?
We could do pressure, or we could do quality. Either one. I feel like you could do pressure, because pressure is a lot of pressure.
I feel like quality might be when they deliver.
Okay, facts. Like you want to save quality. Yeah. Save quality when it's actually...
That'd be nice.
I got you. Yes. We actually get it.
So let's roll with it. We'll do DD pressure. For those of you who want to connect with us on Twitter, you can tag us over there. I'm at G27status. Cog is at Lord Cognito. Use the hashtag DD pressure. Let us know your thoughts on the episode. If you don't use social media, no problem at all. You can go ahead and write in the comments down below using the hashtag DD pressure. And again, let us know your thoughts. Was it a good episode, bad episode? Apologies again. Like, I usually don't do this at the end of the episodes, but if I felt off my game, or if I was off my game, funny if I stutter right there, I feel it. I am so fucking tired. I'm barely holding on right now. So if you felt that in an off episode, maybe you didn't, but hey, I appreciate you bearing with me. And I know Cog will hype me up in a moment here, but I want to just take the fall real quick, just in case. I'm going to get my Phil Spencer cameo on here. Like, if DD sucked, it's not Cog. It's me. It's me. I'm here to surprise and delight next week. I promise.
Surprise, yo! You got to stop with the surprise. It's hilarious. It is hilarious when you say it because it's such corporate. It's hilarious. No, you were good, man. Even 50% Maddie. And trust me, I know that feeling because I've been there before. When I come in tired, like, damn, I felt a little off.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm feeling it this
so
week.
I know what you know. Bro, you were fine.
I appreciate it. I usually can hold on. I'll tell you after the show, but I was like, I felt off enough where I was like, let me just. If no one thinks it, great. Then I addressed it for no reason. That's fine. I'm okay with that. But
you're good.
Holy shit. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you so much. And we hope you have a great rest of your week. And with that, seeing you in episode 124 of Defining Duke and Xbox podcast. Until then, though, peace out.
Peace.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is recorded from the United States of America. The show is conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. Matty's co-host is Barry Lord Cognito Eversley. Defining Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman, and the show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level on Patreon, and we're thankful for your kindness and generosity.